Don't forget to turn your microphones on. You, though, you don't speak into your microphone. Because I had somebody complaining to me, and I'm like, I can only do so much.
So I gotta get right into it.
Clemish. Clemish. Light's not on. The podium.
Nobody's there.
They shouldn't have to turn it on every time. Thank you, Dan. Since you're closest. So, here we go. I didn't bring the rest of that.
I don't know.
What was I supposed to?
Wanda, I forgot my,
But that's what I had.
What's the matter?
I forgot my Wanda Fox pen. They last forever.
What?
They last forever.
I know.
Thank you.
Hopefully I didn't break Mr. Heine's computer when I zinged it over there.
It's fine. I know how to fix these things.
I don't. Let me ask you this. If I wanted to call you on my phone, can you do the star 68? Is that guy that came in with me? I need to call him, but I don't want him back because he never.
Time is 1 o'clock. I call the meeting to order. Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remind everybody to put their cell phones on silent, please. And thank you for coming. Take a roll call, please.
Dan,
Here.
Wanda,
Here.
Ryan,
Here.
John,
Here.
Don.
Here. Is there any financial conflict of interest that any of the members of this board has that they would like to declare at this time?
Mr. Chairman, my wife is employed at Lewis and Clark Behavioral Health.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
I have none.
I have none.
I have none.
I have none.
Okay. You all have a copy of the agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I would move to approve the agenda.
Wanda approves.
Second.
John seconds. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Since the city practices reading the public comment statement before, I think I'm going to start doing that too, just so that everybody that attends the meetings has an understanding of what the terms of the public comment is. Public comment is a time for persons to address this body on any subject. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as the item upon which action will be taken. Each person has up to 3 minutes to speak. There shall be no personal attacks against the members of this body, county staff, individuals, or organizations. The chair has the authority to enforce this policy. Failure to adhere to these policy rules may result in forfeiture of the remaining speaking time. Does anybody have a public comment? Hearing none, public comment is closed. First item on the agenda is Lewis and Clark of Behavioral Health with Dr. Stanage.
Good afternoon.
Good
Good afternoon,
Can
Tom.
everybody hear me okay? I have a couple handouts to give you this afternoon, and I'm here to ask for your continued support for Lewis and Clark. And part of the way I do that is I give you some numbers in terms of people that we serve. And I do that as a way to remind you what we do. That I'm one of the, I think probably the few people who appear before the budget hearings, and I'm going to tell you how we're saving you a bunch of money as well. And we'll continue to do that into the future. But this is a handout that has the numbers of individuals that we serve, and it's by calendar year because you guys fund this calendar year. And
Thank you.
I use this as a way to kind of remind you what we do. And as you know, we provide both mental health and substance use treatment services. That outpatient services are kind of and these are by people in primary programs. And outpatient services are kind of the routine care that we receive. Someone might start out in outpatient services and then end up in our care program or impact program or other services. But we serve 2,893 residents from Yankton County.
You might have to, for the at-home viewers. Yeah, be closer to the microphone.
Okay. I can actually stand back here if you want me to. So, but last year we served 2,893 individuals. That the outpatient mental health services represents primarily people who are coming in for some kind of routine care. SED services are kids the children that we're serving through our children and family services. We're in every school in every county that we serve. So our staff are working with lots of kids. We're working with the Boys and Girls Club. We're working with diversion. We're involved in many ways with children's services in the county. Psychosocial rehab, those are individuals who, when I started in this business, were primarily at the Human Services Center. I think the last time I worked at the Human Services Center, I don't want to date myself, but I think there were 1,700 patients there. 1,745, I think. And don't ask me when that was, but it was a while ago. But these are individuals who are in our impact program, our care program. They're individuals who have severe mental illness, that we have case managers that are making sure they're taking medication, they're following them in the community. And then our substance use treatment programs include outpatient substance use treatment, residential inpatient treatment, which is a 28, 30-day program, drug court that we provide support for, school-based prevention. We work with every 6th grader and 9th grader with a program of primary prevention program for substance use called Project Success in the Yankton schools. And then more recently, we have a specialized program for individuals who have opioid use disorders. Some of that is medication-assisted treatment. We have probably 8 or 10 people who are on Vivitrol, which is a long-acting form of Narcan, if you know what Narcan is, but it means that they might use a substance, but it's not going to, certainly they're not going to die and they're not going to have the effect from it. And that's a very, very costly monthly injection. And then crisis care, and that's primarily what I want to talk to you about today, and I have another handout on this, is that the number of crisis contacts we had that last calendar year was 637 crisis contacts. We do, 1 or 2 crisis contacts a day, every day, day in and day out. that the number of crisis contacts that were secondary to a mental health petition, meaning that somebody's filed a petition indicating that someone's a danger to themselves or others because of a mental illness, they're placed in custody by law enforcement. So of those, 208 were on a mental illness hold. And then in October of 2020, we started crisis beds primarily because the tornado hit McKinnon Hospital, wiped out beds. We had no place to go, just absolutely no place to go with individuals who were mentally ill, considered a danger to themselves or others. So we started with 2 crisis beds. We're operating 4 crisis beds right now. And in last calendar year, there was 170 individuals. And what I want you to understand, and Wanda can help with this, I don't know the exact numbers because I don't know what the county's getting charged, but each of those represents a possible cost avoidance for the county of an emergency room visit, which, you know, what's an emergency department visit cost you? 600,000? I don't
Too
know.
much.
Yeah, a
Okay,
lot.
so it saves you transportation to Vera McKinnon. The county is responsible for any pre-commitment hearing costs, and so that hearing takes place in 5, 6, 7 days, 8 days, depending on holidays and weekends. And so if somebody goes to McKinnon Hospital, that's potentially $1,000 a day, I'm guessing, in that neighborhood. You have a special rate and the transportation involved with that, and then the cost of the hearing. So any one of those 170 people could have cost you $10,000. And so that's the thing that's really important that you understand, and it's one area where the costs are going in the right direction. The state's assuming those costs. I don't want to say that too loudly, but that's what's happening, and it's a huge for the counties, particularly counties that we're serving that are the size of Yankton County that just don't have the tax base like a couple larger counties do to be able to do that. So the second thing I want to share with you is we're going to be adding 5 more beds, 4 or 5 more beds, probably September 1st. And we're calling it the Core Center, Crisis Outreach Response and Engagement.
Thank you.
And what we're doing with this, and pending that we get all the staff hired, but we're in the process of hiring 15 or 20 new staff members, that this will be take all comers. Doesn't matter if it's a mental health crisis or a substance use related crisis, law enforcement, family, if somebody voluntarily can come in. We'll do a medical screening, make a decision whether or not they're medically stable, try to crisis plan with them, turn them around if we can. If we can't, have a stabilization bed for them. In some instances, we may stabilize them just purely waiting for an inpatient bed to open because sometimes there just aren't beds available. And with kids, we'll have 1 bed for children, and that's what we'll do with that bed. We will not keep, we'll keep kids up to 23 hours. So, and that's huge because you're talking about law enforcement maybe having a 15, 20-minute turnaround time, where now sometimes you have law enforcement sitting with somebody for, I've seen it as much as 12 hours a day sitting with somebody waiting for a place to go. So we're working on it, we're asking our counties for 8% increase. This year, Yankton County contributes $90,787, and we're asking you to go up to $98,050, essentially. The amount of money that we get from the county is a small part of our budget, but it allows us to leverage state dollars, which I think we've done a pretty darn good job doing for the county. So questions?
With the new facility out there, in a year or two, is there plans to actually increase like the youth juvenile bed or at the core facility?
We'll have 14 beds out there, and we'll have 2 for kids. We'll increase kids. I don't see us keeping kids long-term, because we would have to, you get into all kinds of issues like, school and
Sure.
probably additional
Room
staff.
size.
And, yeah.
So,
And separate, we have to be careful that we have separation right now,
Sure.
so.
Okay.
so what you're saying is we can't anticipate that you will lessen the burden of the county's juvenile issue with the center out there? With JDC,
Yeah,
with
that- I mean,
JDC?
that's accurate. I mean, if you wanted to do a juvenile, a 24/7 program staffed, if you have some medical staffing, you're talking about $2 million a year. I mean, it'd be a pretty heavy lift.
Okay,
What we're doing right now is a heavy lift. I mean, we're doing what, trying to make crisis care available, where people need it. When you think about it, the state's looking at regionalizing crisis care, and, thank God, hopefully we'll get rid of the prison bus that transports people who have mental illness from Pennington County across the state with prisoners. And so, there are very good things happening in that regard.
Okay.
But it's not gonna fix your juvenile problem.
that was worth an ask.
Although I, and this goes way back to when Sheriff Hunoff, but I really do think a lot of the services that we provide for kids have lessened the burden in terms of the juvenile delinquency problems. But you have some kids that you just have to have some higher cost options for. Other questions? You would have to give me a question that
No, I guess I'd just like to say how much we appreciate your work on this, and mental health throughout the state is a huge problem, and we're lucky to have a facility like this coming into Yankton, and it's gonna ultimately help our citizens and our kids, so
Thank
I
you.
just appreciate everything you've done with that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, have a good rest of the day. Stay cool.
Thank
You too.
you, Tom.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the Mead Building. Crystal Nelson.
Hello.
Crystal?
Hi.
Hi.
First of all, thank you so much for giving me a new date. As you're going to find out here in a little bit, I'm currently covering my job plus 2 other employees' positions because they're vacant, and I just completely messed up the date on my calendar, so my bad.
That should be the worst thing to happen to anybody.
Right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what I gave you was just a fact sheet summary of what I'm going to share with you. If for those of you that don't know me, I'm Crystal Nelson, Executive Director, and I've been at the Historical Society since 2007, and I was an intern the year before that, so 17 years. And I just want to share with you a little bit about just the status of where we're at as an organization, where we're going, starting with, of course, the great things. And for those of you that don't know, the Historical Society, our mission is to provide an authentic historic experience of the Yankton County area from pre-Dakota Territory to the modern era. So we cover that geographic location and that timeline in history. Recent activity this is just 2023 so far. We have a new tenant. We have Southeast South Dakota Tourism is now headquartered out of our building. It is great having them there. It's already been a whole new kind of hustle and bustle happening up and down the hallway. So they've been really great. They're going to be really great for us to continue to expand not only the use of the facility, but inviting visitors to have a place to get to know what there is to do in our county and our community. So far this year, each month, our average visitor count is almost double that of last year. So we must be finally kind of crawling out of everything. And people are definitely aware that we are there. Our other tenant is the Joseph and Sarah Woodward Alumni and Education Center of Yankton College on the 3rd floor. And they have just finished their last 2 exhibits, so they have 4 exhibits. They're not open just yet, but as soon as they should be in the next week or 2 here. So excited to have their sports and their arts galleries open in addition to the history of the college. And then our Heritage Park move, our historic building move, has taken obviously longer than it intended to. We have 1 building left at Westside Park to move out to our new Heritage Park, which is adjacent to the Mead Building. So it's all included with the Historical Society collection. So in our perspective, the Mead Building, as well as all the 9 buildings that we own in addition to it, are actually historic artifacts. They're not just a building to us. They're handled a little bit differently. We have started the renovation on the Gunderson one-room school this summer, so we can have that exhibit and everything open by the end of the summer. I also wanted to note, as far as Heritage Park, that we very much appreciate the Yankton County Commission support and assistance in helping us get the South Dakota Department of Transportation Alternatives grant for the restoration of the Great Northern Railroad Depot and the Burlington Northern Caboose. We will start that project, some of it next year, but I believe the requirements are that we can't really actually start physical work till 2025. So although these are all really great, good things happening at the Mead Building, and they're really important to our future success, we do have a bit of a challenge with our operations cash flow. Donations to specific projects have been really wonderful. People are very generous, but they're not enough to cover the operational costs to manage those projects, which is the staff. Our current budget is $400,000. Of that, $210,000 is what's available for salaries for what should be 7 FTEs if we were fully staffed. Actually, we only currently have 5 FTEs because I don't have enough money to hire the other 2. Our full-time salary employees ranges from $35,000 a year to $46,000 a year total. So that is how everybody is paid within that range. There are no benefits that we can offer with that. They don't get retirement. They don't get anything except lots of vacation time that they never have time to take. So as you can imagine, it's been really hard for us to recruit and retain professionally trained employees to preserve, educate, and exhibit your valuable historic collection, which is currently over 45,000 objects. The rapid increase in cost of living, the large jump in competitive wages has kept us from being able to financially keep up. It's also a double-edged sword. We are short-staffed, so we're really busy putting out fires, just keeping operations going, but it doesn't allow us to work on the exhibits, the permanent exhibits that we need to finish. So we need the permanent exhibits to get people in the door, to get extra funding, but I can't get extra people in the door if I don't have the staff to do the exhibits. So we're kind of trapped in this bit of a conundrum. I know I always get asked, and I wanted to throw in there that the mill levy, how we spend that goes to the Yankton County Historic Preservation Commission, and they allot a certain percentage of that to us. And so we use that for utilities, insurance, paying back our elevator and bathroom installation loans. And then the rest of it goes to, which is about 20 to $22,000 is left to do preservation and accessibility projects. So like in 2023, we replaced the wood fire escape railings and everything with actual steel and appropriate, exit plan materials.
And Crystal, that's a common misconception, I know that came up before, is that the levy for the historical levy goes 100% to the Mead, and that's not true. It goes to a lot of other things as well, and I know in the past, some of the commissioners have said that, and that's just a thank you for clearing
Correct,
that up.
yes.
So.
Yep, we do not get that 100%. They share that with other projects in the county. The cash flow and employee retention issue is an ongoing concern for our organization. We have created a task force to address this issue. In the meantime, I'm just here to let you know where we're at and to ask you to not cut your current support. I believe this year was $16,000 for 2024. As you can tell, every penny matters to us significantly, as I'm sure it does to everybody that you support and help. But our vision to strive to enhance the quality of life through cultural understanding in Yankton County is a pretty lofty goal. I just wanted to share with you where we're at. Great things happening, but there are some concerns that we need to address as we move forward, and no doubt this won't be the last time you guys will hear from me on that topic, but for now, that's where we're at. Questions, thoughts?
Still gonna do the
Overnight?
Halloween overnight?
Of course, yeah. It's always fun. It's growing, yeah. We sell out pretty fast now, yeah. A lot of really good programs. Our Feed Your Mind every Friday is starting to average 50 to 80 people on our first Fridays. And so those are what I consider our smaller programs. Some of our bigger programs, we had a leprechaun hunt just for fun, and we had like 200 or 300 people come out for that. One event, one evening, and we're like, apparently kids find this fun. So, it's really great. And our Hall of Trees last year doubled from the first year. So this year we'll see how many, we were over 2,000 visitors in a month last December, so.
Do you still do the old-fashioned Christmas, or I know I brought
The
the
what?
kids to that one.
Yeah.
It was an old-fashioned Christmas theme, and it was just great for the kids and with the trees. And
Yeah, so we span that out.
It was a really cool event.
Yeah, we span that out, sorry to interrupt, to every Wednesday night, we have family night, and we incorporate in things like, the stringing of popcorn, the older traditions of Christmas, as well as other things that Rob comes up with. He's great. His mind never ends, so. We do have a really wonderful staff, and I really want to be able to keep what we have and to be able to build on it, so.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much,
it.
you guys. Take care.
The next item on the agenda is 2024 budget discussion. And my thoughts were that we could sit back and think about the presentations of the different departments and come together and review the budget and do a little deeper dive into where we're at and where we want to go.
We have to approve the budget August 1st at the next meeting. The provisional budget, then I have to advertise for 2 weeks, and then we monitor.
Your microphone's not on.
Then, we will approve the provisional budget as the annual budget September 19th,
And we can make changes
up to the
up to the 19th.
Up to the 19th.
Yep. So. I guess my thought was we could, we each have the budget book, and we could start with the auditors and just kind of go through. In preparation for that, Patty's prepared a document on where we're at in the different budget areas. This document here. Patty, you want to explain that?
For the general, I did one basically just for the general fund and for, the highway, because those are the two biggest ones. Most of the departments are in the general fund and then the highway.
Which one are you on? Which paper?
This one,
This one here.
That one? All right, got it.
the up and down one, not the across one.
Okay, for the general fund, that first column is the current budget. The top portion is for revenue. For all the, categories, taxes, licenses, intergovernmental revenue, charges for goods and service, fines, miscellaneous revenue, and other sources. And as you can see, we're over half of what we've collected as that year-to-date actual. So we're, I think possibly it looks like we might be over the revenue by the time the end of the year. And then for the expenditure summary for the general fund, those are all the beginning current budget for expenditures. And the middle, the year-to-date, explains, what they have spent and what is left. So with the current budget for the general fund is 16,702,755, and the balance, what is left to spend, is $12,009,907. Of that, there's 7,843,368 left to spend. And this is as of June.
So you're saying we're $3 million short? Am I reading that right?
Well, the budget was 16 million and we spent almost 5 million. So what is left is 12,009,000 to spend.
Well, then it says revenue over under expenditures. It looks like we're 7 million to the bad.
No, that's what we have left.
Okay,
It's accounting, the
Okay.
minus means what's left.
okay, 'cause-
And we have that till the end of the year, is that correct?
Correct.
So, and we do have a tendency to get a lot of bills
At
coming
the
toward
end.
the end, so, it'll likely be pretty close. I guess one thought that we need to keep in mind, at the last meeting, we just did a bunch of applications for bridges for the federal system, and if we're lucky enough to get a bridge improvement grant for Stone Church Bridge, that'll be 2 million that we'll have to come up with.
Minimum.
Minimum of 2, more like 2.5. And I hope we get it, and if we do, we should probably be prepared to get it. It'd be a shame if we got that and then couldn't come up with our end. So I don't know how we incorporate that into our budget.
But the likelihood of that's pretty
Well-
minuscule.
If we're not prepared for it though, and we do get it, and we have to turn it down, I wouldn't feel right about that either.
Well, I agree with that, but
So I'm just, it's a
the
point we need to.
likelihood is very small.
Sure, sure.
I actually think that through the visiting with the state and with Mike Solacek, I think that the last grant that we applied for Stone Church Bridge, I feel fairly confident that that could actually happen.
Our big scores.
That we're gonna get
very
it?
Yes.
Our big score is very competitive, so we just need to, I don't know
That's,
how we do that.
that's, of the bid amount that we had, which probably has gone up
Yeah,
again since we got
Yeah,
those
but-
bids.
Yes, but the grant that we applied for on this bridge is a federally funded grant
Oh, it's 100%.
where it's, for the Stone Church Bridge, it's 18.5% is our
Share.
share. But what happens is if the quote comes in at $18 million now instead of 14, that they're still gonna pick up the extra money, but we still have to pay the 18.5% of the extra value also. So it's not like we're limited to a set amount.
and if we don't,
Only by our finances.
Only by our 18.5%, correct.
and if we don't get selected for the federal grant, we're still applying for the state program as well.
Yes.
And from what we've done, which I think is a good thing, doing the preliminary engineering and all the other things that have led us to a high big score, we're gonna be very competitive. I mean, we were awarded it in the past, several years ago, so we're, again, right in the running, so.
We did quite well,
We-
just 2 years ago, I think it was.
If we could've
We did
only.
exceptionally well.
Yeah, well, we struggled to pay for it when it was a $3 million bridge, and now it's a $10 to $12 million bridge.
Exactly.
And
By the time this is all said and done, it could be a $15-16 million bridge.
it very well could be, yeah,
I would guess not if we have to pay for it.
yeah.
Do any of you have a thought about each department, if you're gonna leave them, or change anything? So I can change it on the provisional budget so we don't have so many changes?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna start with our book and go through, starting with the auditors.
Or
Why don't you
guys-
start at
Commissioners are first. And you guys did change last time, the, travel.
Yeah. I think we're good with that one. Are we doing, we're still contributing to the Yankton Transit on this one, correct?
Yes.
the what?
10,000, yes,
Yankton
10,000.
No, I think the transit was 5.
Oh,
and the-
it was 10,000 this year and then they changed it,
Okay, so what is it this year, 5?
5.
And then Boys and Girls Club is,
No, actually, the Yankton Transit is 2,500
okay, even better. Keep going, Patty.
Which, where are you looking at?
on the commission. No,
So-
no, on your book.
Okay.
So before we start
I
cutting
thought it would be.
or increasing department budgets, let's discuss the total revenue and the total expenditures as presented.
And that's on this page that I sent you that report, this report, the provisional, that shows revenues and expenditures.
And that comes up,
It's this one right here.
Is that this one?
that comes up
Nope.
with a balance. I made mine smaller so I could get it all on one page. Of course,
think that's
of course I
on your
can't read it.
computer.
It's too small.
Is it this one?
No, it's
It's
what
on-
came with that,
Oh,
This one?
yeah.
John, yeah.
Provisional budget, okay.
Yeah, I didn't bring that one, of course. Oh, I left it.
I can make you a copy.
Could I get one too, Patty, please?
Does anybody else want a copy?
Everybody want a copy?
I've got
This
one.
is- If this is the right one, I'm
That's
good.
just the last page.
Yeah, that's,
And that shows the,
It was the only page I got.
yep, here's the revenue. Here's the, revenue. Oh, maybe it's not on there.
Sure, thank you.
Dollar page, no, just kidding. How are you doing? I'm glad we have so many people at the budget meeting. Usually, nobody shows up, and this is probably the most important meeting of the entire year, where we try to work everything out, so. Yeah, and revenue is not keeping up with the expenses.
well, in the report that, that Patty's gonna bring to you, it shows that, total appropriations, 15,924,000, and, total expenditures, the same. So the question is, what happens with the general fund from day one to day 365? Are we spending that down from the balance that we started with, or not? And that's the question that I always struggle with when we look at our budget, because the way state looks at it and the way we look at it, the way
Yeah.
you look at it in normal financial is a little different.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The copies are running, so. So do you want to leave the commissioners the same?
There was just one page. Did you said
Oh.
standalone, but there was just one page?
No,
Oh.
just let me redo it. I just had them print that one page.
While she's doing that, I'll go start on the first section under general government. Board of County Commissioners is 192,150 out of the general fund. $400,000 for contingencies.
Where, when you said commissioners, you get 192? I have 186.
You're not on the provisional budget.
Well, that's because I'm waiting for the provisional budget, which makes it difficult to start.
Well,
We,
the handout here, it actually has, this is. the
She's
updated
making a
version,
copy.
isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, so the updated for the commissioner says we're actually higher than that because we already upped that travel budget. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the Boys and Girls Club actually asked for 35,000 instead of 10 from this
For
year.
what?
yeah, I guess involving with that, this is a kind of related issue. We probably have to decide our path with the JDAI. I know we got that grant with the Boys and Girls Club.
That ends next year.
Yeah, yes, and I know the state's attorney's office has showed interest in doing that, and both the Boys and Girls Club has showed an interest, and they can't both do it, so we're gonna have to probably decide, correct?
True,
Yeah.
and this state's attorney's office, it seems to make somewhat more sense to have it in the state's attorney's office, because that's where they do the work, and then
Yeah.
the really naughty children that are involved with the diversion program can't go to the Boys and Girls Club anyway.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you're the most experienced with that. I guess my only thought is if we add extra staff in the state's attorney's office, then we're paying salaries, we're paying benefits, we're paying retirement, we're paying more, which maybe that makes sense, but if we contract with the Boys and Girls Club, it's probably gonna be more affordable, but you brought up some valid points that they can't be in there, so.
Well, my
I understand
understanding
both
is
sides.
that Mr. Alec would be officing out at Lewis and Clark Behavioral Health instead of mostly at the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
And
I haven't heard that.
that's what they shared with me. I don't know that that's true. And having been
I don't think they-
taxed to
I
fix
don't
the
think they
juvenile
said that in
detention.
their presentation here.
Having been tasked with the juvenile issue that we have, I'm not entirely sure what I can do to strategically plan forward, because I am not in control of parents, to make them be better parents, to have less problem with the children, but
Thank you.
I just, in the Boys and Girls Club presentation, I don't think you were there, though.
I wasn't, I was in
You
trial.
weren't there. I don't think they,
I was here for one last week. They gave a presentation about, and I asked questions of them, because Mr. Alec happened to be sitting in
yes, he was.
the crowd. Is this the one you're looking at now?
Yeah.
All right.
Overall.
That's just
Oh,
totals,
that's
that
the
doesn't.
totals and
Yeah, Mr. Chair, is this the time you want to, I guess since it's in the commission budget for Boys and Girls Club, is this the time you'd want to discuss that, or would you want to keep going? Because I'm fine with donating. In the past, it's been 10,000 to the Boys and Girls Club. I think it's well worth it to help prevent juvenile, but I guess if we're gonna expand the state's attorney's office to do juveniles, we probably maybe want to keep our donation to the Boys and Girls Club at 10. If we're gonna expand the juvenile detention to the Boys and Girls Club, then maybe it makes sense to
I
do
think
that
they're,
item here, but I don't know what the board wants to do.
I think they're, Dan, the 10,000, originally, this project was funded, I believe, by the state, Wanda. And we got a grant for $30,000 a year for 3 years to cover it. And the reason that they're asking for an increase is because the grant expires mid-year in '24, and therefore, they're looking for,
Sure.
to cover that grant. And
And
looking at the budget, it kind of looks to me like one of the greatest increases has been in the state's attorney's office.
yes.
Yeah, which has been staffed considerably higher, and I don't doubt that they would share the same kind of data that Dr. Sandage shared as far as increased workload.
I'm sure.
I'm
We
sure
have a
it would.
huge meth issue.
Well, and I believe this goes back to was it the SB 20, the reforms in 2012 that happened that pushed a lot of these things onto the county that used to be state responsibilities. And my research with the state from 2012 to about 2018, the state's attorney's budget has doubled. And then from 2018 to now, it's doubled again. So I have no doubt that there's a huge increase in workload and responsibility of cases and things that used to be a state responsibility, but now has been pushed down to the county level.
And I know that,
Well, in looking at the state's attorney's budget, I did notice that they had like $10,000 or some ridiculous number for additional furnishings. Didn't we just buy them a new computer program to lessen their things, so everything is now, they have everything on computer, and they digitally send it, so they don't print, they don't copy like they used to, so there's, and I don't know where they're gonna put additional furnishings, that place is full up.
But didn't they hire 2 more attorneys in the last year?
No.
No, they have not hired any, zero.
Uh,
They've got Tyler,
Yeah.
who's been there 3 years, and Deb, who's been there 3 years. They've hired no additional attorneys.
I
I think it's staff.
I believe John is,
Yeah.
Billings
John-
is still
John
on
is
contract,
gone,
though. Is he on-
But
is
he
on?
does
I don't think they've,
mandatory drug court, which is a federally funded program. And then they have the same number of assistants. They have Tara, Holly, and the other one, whose name I can't.
And it used to be, one of those ladies was half-time state's attorney, half-time ambulance billing. And then when we went to that QMC, then she went over to the state's attorney full-time. And then did we not add the mental, or, I'm sorry, the medical claim lady as well,
Oh,
as a separate
the
position?
poor relief.
So that's 3 positions. We've had an extra attorney, which is not filled, and then part-time going to full-time assistant, and then the poor relief medical claim. So that's a number of positions that have been
So are we
added.
gonna go through these in order, or just randomly pick?
I think we're gonna go
here's the
down through
current,
order.
here's the current budget, this is for next year.
I think it'd be more systematic with through them in order than to jump around too much.
Okay,
So we're on page 2 now?
they're not in the same order.
So what's the difference between line 130 and line 151?
On mine,
Yeah, on your provisional budget, other than 299,000.
I'm sorry, where,
I'm on page 2 of the provisional.
no,
No, I'm not supposed to be
That's-
looking at this?
no, we're going to each one in your book.
We'll start out with the auditor. I was okay with the presentation. I think, my understanding has been is that, all of the departments have utilized, the salary matrix and the consumer price index, so, salaries are pretty much,
We don't have anything to say about that.
yeah.
The only question I have would be furniture and minor equipment.
I'm, normally when we used to do our refresh, we do it on a lease program where we would pay for it every, I think it's a 3-year lease program. But now we went to a different, we're buying them outright.
What is it?
Yeah. Computers,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
And these are just modems
and, yeah.
that we
computer
replace, and they're 900 apiece now. So I don't, but I'm not gonna order them until December, so it comes out of next year's budget. And I had talked to the gentleman from the company, he said maybe just pad it a little bit in case if something goes up. But I'm only ordering 4 for us.
Yeah. Does that include like software or anything like that? Do you pay any software licenses through that
No.
line?
These are just for the modems.
Yeah, as I said, like if you had software licenses, are you putting those under that, furnitures and minor equipment as well, or
No, that comes out of data for the whole
data?
building.
Okay, all right.
The next item
Well,
is.
wait, back up. I'm still back, let's back up to Commissioner for a minute. Why do we have professional fees of 40,000 for the commissioners?
That's,
Deductibles?
attorney, yeah, any laws, suits or anything like that, so that's the deductible.
And travel? We travel that much?
Well,
Quite a bit of travel, yeah. And we discussed at the last meeting, trying to go do some more of these educational conferences for the commissioners, so.
Okay, sorry, Don.
Elections?
and that just went up because of, we have our elections next year, the federal elections in 2024, for the general and the primary.
I just looked at 40,000 for supplies. Is that all election supplies? Is that,
That's ballots.
okay.
That's,
Next,
but we only have ballots every 4 years or 2 years, don't we?
Every two.
Doesn't that seem like a lot?
Well, since we have vote centers, I order 100%, because people can vote at any vote center they choose.
Well, hopefully not on everyone.
Just one, right?
Just one vote
Yep,
at one vote center.
okay.
And our, poll books we have, if somebody would happen to try to do that, it already puts in, say if they go to the city and then they wanna go to the fire station, it shows that they voted.
Okay.
next item would be treasurer. Any? Theirs would be mostly salary dictated by the matrix. State's attorneys? I guess Wanda, where I was talking about salaries, 22 actual was 396, and this year's is 528.
Well, it was
23
378, wasn't it?
23 was 501,143.
Yeah,
This year, or for next year, it's 528,706.
Yeah, I said 22 actual,
Yeah.
Three
Yes.
ni-
Yep,
396.
you're right.
and I'm not sure under professional services what they have $20,000 for professional services for. I
wondered
know
about
that,
too.
I know that when they do the, translator, they wanted to hire somebody to be a translator, and they talked to me about that. And I asked them, because they find it cumbersome to have, what we do now is they would call into a place called IntelliTalk, and then they say who they are and what number to bill, and then they say, what language would you want, whether it's Swahili or Spanish or Portuguese or whatever. They find somebody that does that, and then that person gets sworn in, and then the judge says something, and then the translator says something, then the judge says something, then the translator says something. They wanted to have a person to sit right next to them in the chair, as they do in Norfolk, Nebraska, and have them whisper what the judge says to them, so there's not that delay. Because what they are doing now is they used to do that in the morning, and now the judge has moved all the people needing translators to Wednesday afternoons at 3 o'clock, so that everybody else doesn't have to sit and wait for the people that don't speak English. But I asked them how much, and I think the folks over here, I asked how much does it cost, how much did we spend on an IntelliTalk last year versus a person to sit in the courtroom, who may or may not be available, who then we'd have to pay extra taxes on. And I believe the response was $166. So I'm not sure it would be financially justifiable to hire a person to come and sit and do translating, because we're never gonna find somebody that lives here that speaks any of the African country languages or dialects, when we can do it over the phone for pennies comparatively.
Yeah.
So I think $20,000 is too high, in my opinion.
So what should we change that to?
Let me check and see what those cost.
Okay, then, the next item on there is diversion expenses, and that's $4,000 if.
Well, it's not the next item, there's some other items, but
The next item that I'm looking at.
of concern.
Yes.
Well, what's been
If we're gonna
happening,
cut the 30,000 out of the Boys and Girls Club, this'll have to go up.
well,
I would think.
I can tell you what Deb Lilly has been doing, is Deb Lilly has been driving children who have non-responsible parents, picking them up in her own vehicle and driving them to school.
I know that. and I
So
know
that they get there.
Mr. Alex is also doing that.
Well, I know, they're both doing that. But I'm not sure what this entails.
I guess if that is the case, why wouldn't we look at hiring somebody else besides our deputy state's attorney, which we're paying $90,000 a year? She should be working on cases.
They don't
and
open till 9.
But
I
what I'm
think-
saying is we should be hiring somebody else to drive these kids around and not our
I
deputy
think what
state's
Deb's
attorney.
told me, and
Sure.
you got a good point, but she's told me that frequently, they'll get a call from the school at 8:30 that so-and-so is not there. So they call Deb, and Deb runs out and picks them up.
Well, is that if, that
She
we always
doesn't
hear.
start working till 9.
Sure, but we always hear how busy they are, and they have asked her for another attorney and all of this, and I'm wondering if that duty couldn't fall to somebody who's not making,
And then we
that
have to
much.
pay for that
Well-
person extra and that person's taxes.
well, but
And if she doesn't work
Sure.
until 9 anyway, what difference does it make?
I guess as long as we're keeping up with everything, but
Well, as long as they use meth, we'll never keep up.
Well,
Yeah.
your point is hard to argue against your point,
I
Dan.
guess, why are we paying somebody $90,000 a year to run kids around when we could maybe reach out to some other organization and say, hey, we have a problem with kids not getting to school on time? I mean, have we reached out to, some other organization and see if we can get this figured out? I just, when you spend all of this time, something always lapses a little bit. So that's my concern with
I'd
that. so.
guesstimate that there'd be some kind of legal liability if the person didn't get them there.
Well, I mean, it's,
Who's-
And just for clarification, just so you know, Clay County, which is a smaller county and is a college town, so they have most of their drunken crime between August and May. They have 4 attorneys and half the caseload, which is ridiculous, but again, I don't run that county.
sure.
That, professional services, that 33,000, most of that is that new software they got.
But they won't be paying that every year, will we?
No,
So we are,
I don't think so. I don't know how
that's,
their
I
thing
thought
is working.
I thought that special software was, like a one-time deal and maybe updated once in a while.
That's-
But I'm
yeah.
not the king of IT,
A lot of software now is an annual license.
but not $33,000 worth.
Yeah, I've seen software that costs more than that.
Well, I'm
annually.
sure, but then I'd go back to paper if it was me. Because they don't spend $33,000 on paper.
Our software system is $18,000 annual fee, plus $250,000 upfront. So
Well, then you're making big money.
needed to keep track of all the
Keep-
trucks on the roads.
Yeah, keep that in mind when we're doing budget.
I'm just saying that 20,000 might be annual maintenance fees for the
Well,
software.
And maybe it is, I don't know. And I wasn't here if they did a presentation, so. Did they
I
do
don't
a
think
presentation
that-
on the
that
day I
was
was not
Deb
here?
was here. Deb was here.
She
And
was
did
here,
the-
but I don't think that particular item got brought up for
And nobody
discussion.
asked about it?
In my book, I had a question mark by it, so
I will
I
ask
think
them.
that's something we can check into.
Yeah,
and-
yeah, that should be.
I'd like to know about the diversion thing, though.
Okay.
because
I will
if-
ask about that as
If
well.
that's $4,000, and that's gonna cover all the things that, Mr. Alex gets paid for.
Oh, it's not even
What-
close.
Did this budget include an extra person for
No.
JDI for that
think in his-
position or
I
not?
think
What are
in
you
Rob's
saying, Dan?
explanation- In Rob's explanation, the one comment was,
Yeah,
reflects minimal changes except for an annual increase in salary and benefits, insurance. The request for the diversion coordinator is not currently included.
so that'll likely be quite, I mean, that should be included in here if it ending in, because this is the 2024 budget, and that's when that ends, so I guess this isn't really an accurate budget of what the request is gonna be, if there's gonna be an additional request for a JDI person. To Don's point.
Daniel,
To Don's point, that 4,000 is gonna likely be much, much higher than that.
Well, we wrote checks for, what, 258 or 278,000 last year?
Yeah, exactly.
for juveniles?
Diversion.
Well, but,
Detention.
yeah, if we know that request is coming, I guess we should be budgeting for it. Right? I mean, it's not an unexpected expense. It's something that we're really planning on, so it should be
So
in the
you're
budget.
saying, you're saying, yeah,
Yeah.
we know state's attorney is gonna hire a coordinator.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so then I agree with you. It should be in
Yeah.
the budget. We should put that in the budget.
yeah, and what the actual costs are, so,
Mhm.
yes. You know, sometimes things come up where, oh, we need to do this, and we didn't know it was coming, but this is one we know. So,
That's a whole new, employee,
It's
yes,
a new position.
so you'd have
Yeah.
to approve that,
yeah.
you know, for him to put a budget in there.
Well, they don't have another employee yet, do they?
So,
Okay, let's just know that we've got either $35,000 or $40,000 going to the state's attorney's office or to the Boys and Girls Club, one or the other, but it won't be less than that, and then we can decide on this down the road.
I think the first thing is that we have to decide if we want to grant him that new position. You know, then we can definitely put it into the budget.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother discussion.
And
And
at this point, what happens if the grant gets, a new grant gets,
I don't think the state doesn't do it that way. They give you
I
money and
think
then
it's
they
been
don't do
determined
it.
there won't be.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the way they pass the cost down.
Yeah, yeah, they pass the buck.
Start with a grant and end up with you pay for it all.
I was thinking there was a summer study though that was going on about some of this stuff, so
Yeah.
maybe they actually felt for us once for change.
Yeah.
Gary, did they fall in their summer study? Were they very proactive on getting more money to the counties?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at for the meetings, for the JDI person, they were thinking it was probably gonna be around 50,000 plus benefits. So
Yeah,
that's kind of what you'd be looking at for estimates.
Yeah.
And for Dan's point in regards to the driving to pick up students, I know one of the concerns was that their safety and whether they'd be able to get people that would be okay with going and picking up those juveniles,
Yeah.
and feel like it was safe to do that. That was just one of the things that was discussed.
yeah. You know, so it's an issue of really safety then?
And
They
then,
know Deb can put the hammer down.
Well,
That's
But-
kind of what I'm thinking, that it's
Yeah.
more professionalism and more of an attitude to pick them up and say, we're going to school.
Well, and she used
you
to
don't
be a
have a choice.
teacher in the alternative
Yeah.
schools, and they know that, and she's just, this is what
Yeah.
we're gonna do. I'm gonna pick you up, and you're gonna go to school.
so the hope would probably be that the new JDI coordinator would take on some of those duties, though?
Clearly.
That's our hope, okay.
It's not what she
Well,
wants to
you-
do.
Sure, and, you know, and really,
And he already does it.
it should be a lot of credit to Deputy State's Attorney Deb for willing to do that, because
Yeah,
there are probably
absolutely.
people who wouldn't, so I mean, I'm not,
Well, she-
saying it's a bad
she
thing.
likes
I'm
children.
Well, yes, she does, and thank her for doing that. I guess my thought was, you know, she's got a lot of other duties, and we're just adding to that, but if the thought is to increase that by at least 50,000 for salary, and then retirement's gonna go up and insurance, we should, to Ryan's point, we should just make the determination, and that budget, this budget will be more like 860,000 rather than 795,000.
Would
And
you
that's a
put,
big
would
difference.
you put down a contingency, because we're never gonna get through this if we go, we'll come back to this one.
Yeah, because all of that, for the diversion, that, the payroll part will go up in the above section. So that 4,000
Yeah, it'll
that they have
change.
down there is for, I don't, supply or whatever other expense they have for it.
Okay, so put down $50,000 over there on your question mark. We'll come back to that. Next one on the agenda is the Government Safety Center. I had a question on the salary is $69,455. Current budget.
64.
69.
Oh, mine says 64 at the end.
That was,
69,455, 64.
should almost be
I'm-
closer to 69 when you figure in all the benefits.
That's just by
On
the,
here,
the whatever it's called.
I believe how Jeff does it
Sorry,
is,
it's
is
on
he divides the government buildings.
Half and half.
Yeah, some of them go over to
Okay.
the safety center, some of them go over to
Okay.
here based
That
on
makes sense,
the
yeah.
allocation
Okay.
of where they're at. But
Yeah, 'cause
that's
that'll
something
all
we
go
could
down
ask
here.
her.
It'll all go down.
so I'll probably have
Go up
to
60,
refigure
not-
that,
About 69 is what I figured right off here,
yeah.
really quickly.
Now, what insurance though is 23,000? Because they have health insurance at 12. And they have other insurance at 23. What's that for? Liability?
Yes,
Okay.
It's not surprising, insurances are skyrocketing
It's
too.
ridiculous.
and then we also decided to do the accumulation for any big projects. Did you want 30,000 or 25? I think didn't we decide 25?
Yeah, I guess
I
I'm,
think if
had
we're
it.
You
doing
mean
it-
for
if we're doing it
repairs and maintenance?
individually For different projects, I think 25 is enough for this one.
yeah.
I think that's what that's what I put in there.
Yeah, and for Jeff's point is all these buildings are getting old, and he's taken me on tours of the roof, and we're gonna start spending some money in the next few years coming up, so I'd say at least 25, I'm fine with that.
Okay, then Jeff's second one is the safety center building, and we probably answered that in the salaries. Although, Dan, if what you're saying is right, he's asking for 70 and he's asking for 200,000. And this year's budget, yeah, that's about right. Okay, equalization. Any questions there? Let's go on then to Register of Deeds.
I don't think there's really much question on this one, this is
No.
pretty standard.
I guess the only question that I had, and this one and maybe a couple others that were, if we had major cuts to make in the budget, would we look at shared HR responsibilities with work? Does the register of deeds need that number of people to do the job?
What, I think, visiting with Brian, his is probably one of the few departments that hasn't expanded, since we've been here. He actually had 3 full-time employees, and he's gone down to 2 full-time and 1 part-time, why almost every other department has expanded.
But
Well, and he
So-
also says that they don't work, or they can't do some work when the banks are closed, so then
Right.
that's why we have to have the additional holidays.
I guess I
Sounds almost
haven't-
like they're overstaffed.
I guess I haven't heard that, but,
Well,
well, I mean,
for
they're
Native
doing,
American Day and Juneteenth, all
that's-
those were closed, which is why
that's-
they needed the holiday.
that was everybody. That was the treasurer's office, and, that's a vote that we took, and we're just following the state guidelines now. But as far as this one, I think we're getting a pretty big bang for our buck, especially when you look at all the fees that are brought into the county. I mean, that's not a very big budget compared to almost every other budget that we have.
And he does
So-
bring money in.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not much. We've had some budgets that have doubled since 2020, and this one has gone up, not a whole lot, so.
next one is Veteran Service Officer.
What's M&PR fund?
That's the
Brian, that's that state,
modernization fund.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
I'm okay with the Veterans
Yeah.
Service Officers.
Yep.
Now the sheriffs. It's hard for me to argue against some of these budget requests that have gone up considerably when you consider things happening like in Fargo, North Dakota last week. If you don't have adequate staff and you don't have adequate equipment for the,
You also can't plan for crazy.
Nope.
yeah.
Well, and to your point that you mentioned earlier, Wanda, the meth epidemic with the state's attorney, it's
If
also
they would just stay at home,
affecting-
it would be fine.
People would, behave themselves, but that's just not the
You gonna
case.
drive around town and make sure all the lights are off and the kids are all at home?
No, but if they would just stay at home, it wouldn't be such a problem.
I would nominate Wanda to do that.
Exactly. I will say this, that I've seen the white and cars with the green stripes out in the countryside a lot more than in the last 6 months than I've ever had in the past.
I think this is just another example of the criminal justice reform that the state did that pushed all these responsibilities onto the counties and our jails, and the state has made us pick up the tab instead of them, and we're seeing it with the cost increase in this department as well.
Although I'm not sure we need another full-time deputy. If we need another full-time deputy, won't we then need another full-time deputy car?
Well, I visited with the sheriff a couple times, and there's been numerous instances where he's been the only one on duty having to respond. And I don't think that's an issue, but if you're the only one on duty and you need backup, that can be pretty dangerous situations. I mean, look at around our nation, people don't have a respect for the law anymore. And I guess
When has the sheriff been the only one on duty?
you'll have to visit with him about that, but and another thing I would say too is talking to some of the other county commissioners in the state is that the state has significantly increased wages for highway patrolmen. I believe somebody who goes through the academy with the highway patrol, $30 an hour right out of the gate. And what we're gonna see if we don't stay competitive is we're gonna go put them through the academy and pay for it, and then they're just gonna go work with the highway patrol. And that's another thing, we gotta compete with the state with an unlimited budget on that. And the city pays quite a bit more than us as well, I believe.
Isn't the sheriff down 2 in the jail and at least 1 deputy that he can't
I
find a
Yeah.
replacement for, and morale is low?
Yeah, well, I believe it's a case, listening to some of the state talks, and Gary, I don't know if you heard that, I believe Roberts County is another example. If you don't stay competitive with pay, you just keep losing these guys, and it's a revolving door, especially when the city can pay more, the state can pay more, the federal prison can pay more. If we aren't competitive, we're not gonna get people to fill these jobs. And
This is not about the wages. This is about adding additional staff, is my question.
What do the rest of you think?
I think the one thing about additional staff, it's hard. I know that he now put that overtime line in there. It's hard to really know how much,
I'm sorry?
it's hard to really know how much the extra staff is needed. Hopefully, in a year, we'll know at least a little bit more with actually knowing how much we're spending on overtime there and everything. To make that judgment call, but I do see, like, there's, if I'm reading this right, it's 4 vacant deputy positions on this chart?
are you on page, 4?
Yeah,
4, right?
says 4
Yeah.
empty positions.
Yeah, and he wants to add somebody for 55,000.
I think some of those vacants, though, weren't they filled since he done this report?
I'm
I
sorry?
think they've hired.
I
Possibly.
think 2 of those positions
I
were
think you're
vacant,
right.
were
Yeah.
filled since he made this report,
Okay.
I believe.
I had not heard that. But let's assume that 2 of them have been filled. Then how is it with all of these people that he could be the only one on duty? Although you do, to be fair, you do have to take out Terry Lippert, who is a secretary, and Lene, who is also a secretary. So those folks aren't going out in a,
I'm guesstimating, I don't know this, Dan, but was a situation where all available people were on call and he had to go out?
Well, I know when my brother was a deputy years ago, there were many instances where there was, I mean, you gotta remember, they're patrolling the whole county. They'll get calls in Irene, and then get a call in Lesterville, and then get a call I mean, they're traveling a huge county.
but it's not
And
just 1 or 2 people
Well,
on duty.
I believe I don't know his scheduling, but at night, I believe there's only usually 1 deputy on duty. But I don't know, I can't speak for the sheriff. And another thing we gotta consider too with the census coming out is our lake area has grown 20% in the last 10 years. We're talking about over 5,000 people living in that area where the sheriff is their police force essentially. And,
As well as the highway patrol,
well, but,
who are out there virtually every day.
well, that is the highway patrol is not going on the county roads and down Deer Boulevard and things like that.
Not usually,
Yeah.
but they're going out there, so if somebody needs help on
Sure.
Deer Boulevard,
Yeah.
they're there.
I don't know what the highway patrol's range, I don't know if that's the right word, or I know their jurisdiction in the state highway, but I don't know, are they from Clay County to Tyndall, or what is their,
Well,
what is their
apparently they
range?
can chase people all the way
Well,
from Clay County
and
to
then
here.
make it our problem, yeah,
But,
sure.
you know, all they have to do is say, officer needs assistance, DCI vests up, highway patrol vests up, and they all come for anything important.
I guess the thing is that all positions are approved positions for the sheriff's office, so they should be budgeted as such. I mean, it's his discretion to hire
True, but
and fill every
his,
position, so,
he's adding
yeah.
a new person and a new vehicle. Well, 3 new vehicles, actually.
Patty, do you know when the last time
We
we,
just got one new vehicle.
yeah. Oh,
It
do you
says
know-
he needs
I know.
more
Is that
vehicles.
from the crash?
Yeah.
Do you know when the last time a deputy, a patrol deputy was added in that department? I mean, it hasn't been since I've been on. Has it been since you've been on, Don? Do you remember adding one? So, I mean, that's at least 8 years. Well, you've been on almost 10 years, haven't you?
He's been on a long time.
So, I mean, it's been almost 10 years without adding. You know, there comes a point where you need to do that too, so.
But from reading the police report, the police
Yeah.
reports from people being arrested, frequently the captains, I don't know, what used to, the captains are, it used to be Mosier, now it's apparently Chris Meyer or Greg Jensen. They're off doing, assisting DCI in busting people and doing drug buys. You'll have a controlled drug buy and you'll have 6 law enforcement officers there, which if it's within the confines of the city, seems like the sheriff's office doesn't need to be there. You got DCI, you got the city police. So maybe they could spend a little less time within the confines of the city and a little more time outside the city, since law enforcement within the city seems to be adequately served.
I'm okay at putting a hold on the new hire.
I can go talk to him and answer my
Well,
questions.
do you want him, we could probably call him and have him come in if we got any questions, I guess.
Or I can not waste the
Yeah.
board's time and talk to him myself.
I guess I'm okay with it. I know it, nobody wants to spend more, but if we're gonna spend more on law enforcement, is probably one of the good areas to do it, so. We know what happens when we don't fund the police, so.
I'm actually okay with looking at that, a new
Yeah,
position for a deputy.
I'm sorry?
I am also okay with approving or looking at the new position for the deputy.
yeah.
If we're gonna, we should do either one of those two, the vacant deputy position, the new position, or a part-time deputy prisoner transport. In my mind, if,
Yeah. You know, I guess with this being an elected position too, I mean, he can run his department how we see fit. You know, if he wants to add a person, he can. We just have a handle on the purse strings, I guess.
I think the sheriff's
Abs-
office, don't they have to have, with, according to population, how many deputies they can have?
I don't know that.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess I just hate for us to get into the position of telling the sheriff how he should be operating, because that's his purview. If he's asking us, telling us that he needs more patrol deputies, I hate to be the one to tell him no, that he doesn't.
I'll
So-
tell him no then.
So I mean, I
You
guess
like to
I'm-
give me that job anyway.
I'm supportive of it. I guess John says he's supportive of it, and if one more commissioner is, then I guess we can move on, and if three aren't, then I guess we're gonna reassess, but. John and Ryan,
I feel it does not hurt to get a deeper assessment to the,
What did you say?
I feel it doesn't hurt to get a deeper assessment. I feel like it doesn't hurt to get a deeper assessment, just to be sure.
Are we going to say that by looking at more assessments, we're saying that Preston don't need it, and we're going against his word as his position?
No, I think, like you
mean-
said, this is
I mean,
this
he's
is
had
old
this job for
information.
7
It'd be good
months.
to have up-to-date information just to make sure if we can save some money, we should save some money. But, there might be more pertinent information out there than what we have here today.
We can approve $55,000 on the budget, and he may not hire the guy.
Or we can wait and see, because he's
Then
not
we
hired
gotta
one
come back
already.
and- Then we gotta come back and adjust the
yeah.
budget.
Don't we,
Next year,
well, don't, we have to
Okay.
approve the provisional budget
Okay.
in the 1st of August, so we're either
I-
gonna approve this or not, I guess.
My
in a couple
recommendation
days.
is that we have Wanda, because you're liaison with the sheriff's department, aren't you?
I'll talk to him
I believe it's Wanda and I for the safety.
Okay, well, have
for the safety
have the
center.
two of you go and talk to him about the need for it, and get back to Patty by next week, so she can get her numbers in.
Okay,
Should we have him come in on Tuesday when we go
well,
over this?
not if she has to publish
I'd
it.
like to have it okayed, at least so we can do it on Tuesday.
Don't we have a
Yeah.
meeting on Tuesday? Yeah.
Well, how about this? How about we leave it as is, and then, because we're gonna have to do the provisional budget, and then if you guys find an area that you don't like, you can certainly bring it up after that, and then we don't finalize the budget until September sometime. So we can
19th.
make changes
19th.
to our budget till September 19th. But I hate to, the provisional budget is a hearing for the public to come in and say, I support this, or I don't support this, and to get feedback, and so we need to have something out there.
Okay, we'll leave it in and we'll do that.
Sounds good.
That'll be on the list of things that we will adjust in August if it's gonna be
Well,
adjusted.
We have under new positions, a part-time deputy, in addition to a new deputy, we have a part-time deputy in prisoner transport for 85,000, which in the past has not been that much money.
Well, did we just lose a
We
transporter?
lost one, and evidently we must have 3 part-time
I'm sorry?
prisoner transport. We must have 3 part-time prisoner transport employees. We just lost one.
Which one did we lose?
What was his name?
You know the one.
Oh, that one?
His name escapes me.
Yeah, don't say that.
Yeah,
But I know the two that,
had a little altercation with the client.
well, I know the two that are not that one. But I don't know that need to pay them $85,000.
That's combined, part-time. I don't know how many trips they make, how many hours do they put in?
That's the combined for all 3?
All 3.
Okay.
Oh, it's just one cost for the prisoner
Part-time deputy
transport.
treat, yeah.
Okay.
And a part-time deputy for 85,000. I don't think we
I'm
have that
assuming-
many transports, but okay.
I'm assuming
I will
that the
ask
transporter-
Preston.
I'm assuming the transporter is a part-time deputy.
I will
He does
ask
have to carry a
Preston.
weapon.
Okay.
Again, I think we could use some extra clarification. It cannot
Can we
hurt.
give the sheriff a call?
Let's
and
move
see if
on.
he
No,
wants to
let's
come?
move on.
Yeah.
You two can go talk to him and we can resolve this. Juvenile detention budget. That's where we had our,
The
I'm on the
jail-
coroner, but,
The jail, the jail is right
Oh,
after.
jail.
I was
jail budget.
slipping through. Jail budget.
It's pretty sneaky, though. Let's just skip to the end.
No.
Jail budget is,
Ridiculous.
it's all, salary scale.
Well, this is actually one of the few things that brings in quite a bit of revenue to the county. So
I am curious, though, what the supplies are for 50,000.
would that be medication and?
No,
all that?
medication, I think, is, I thought that was up higher. But maybe it is medication.
I know I see a lot of
People that-
bills for thousands of dollars, because we have to pay full price for medication for people and medical device. There's no insurance on that, so we gotta pay the full cost.
I think we should pick healthier inmates.
I agree, I agree. I asked the
You
state of
know,
what,
the jail does bring in a lot of money, but it also
Costs a lot of money.
costs a lot to run that jail too.
yeah. We could be in a situation like Lincoln County is, where they spend $2 to $3 million a month.
No, they're
'Cause they
building
don't
a new
have-
jail.
No, Clay is, I don't think Lincoln's has failed the opt-out several times, has
I
it?
just talked to one of their commissioners, and they said they're building a jail.
Oh, did Tiffany, did they finally get that opt-out through?
That's what she said. I don't know that it's true, but
Okay, let's move on.
Now it's juvenile detention.
Juvenile detention budget, and that's for our bad boys and girls, as Wanda said.
Something interesting, Wanda, if you would check on this. When John and I were at the 8-county meeting, Pennington County actually charges Rapid City for the municipal juvenile defenses and get reimbursed.
they do what?
They charge the city of Rapid City for the municipal crimes for juveniles, and they get reimbursed because they're having people arrested on a municipal, not a state or county crime, but a municipal crime.
Well, the problem with that here is the city attorney rarely does any criminal stuff. He does things like, you have an unlicensed vehicle parked in your yard and grass and weeds are growing around it and it irritates the neighbors.
Yeah.
He rarely does, they filed all that stuff as county infractions, speeding and
So
that stuff.
I can.
So if the city has an ordinance that you gotta keep the weeds down in your driveway, it still becomes an issue for the county if
No.
they're cited?
No.
No, city.
Yeah.
That's what
So-
the city attorney does. City
So,
attorney
yeah.
rarely handles any criminal infractions within the city. Like a DUI, in theory, because it was within the, it could be prosecuted by the city, but it's ridiculous, because it's a state statute,
Yeah.
which makes it a county
I
issue.
understand that.
So I guess what was happening in Rapid City is the Rapid City Police were picking up juveniles for like a curfew violation, which is a municipal crime, putting them in detention. And so the county was actually billing them because it was a municipal crime. So I just thought that was something interesting to hear.
Here, we just do diversion.
Yeah.
Sobriety fund. Entertain a motion to take a 5-minute break.
Make that motion, Clement.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. We're on a break.
Was it Dan and Wanda?
Yep. What? Well, after we're done, I don't care, we can meet forever, but I'd like to get through the recorded part of our situation.
I just thought it was interesting when we talked to them that this, the county found a way to charge the city, because if it's a municipal crime,
No, I get that, but that's a curfew, and how they handle it here is they file, they just do a juvenile petition and put it on a diversion.
so they,
So they're not actually, we can roll this puppy up, but they don't,
Make a motion to go back into session.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same, motion carries. Next item, coroner.
Bring that fly swatter down.
And that's no change.
No change. Next item, the nurse.
The only thing I would say, I'm sorry to make this last long, the only thing I would say with the coroner is I have found out this past weekend that if the person who passes away is a veteran and they contact the VA in Sioux Falls, there are actually burial programs to defer the cost. So I don't know if we are aware of that or not. So that's something we could maybe let her know.
That's not, that's, the funeral expenses has nothing to do with the coroner.
This is,
For the
this
coroner.
is examinate.
Okay, all right.
This is the person that goes out and says
Yeah.
you're dead.
Burial or funeral, any funeral, that's in the quarterly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next item, public health nurse. Any questions there?
On what one?
Public health nurse?
Oh, no, sorry.
None.
What does county accumulations mean under ambulance?
That's, they can accumulate, dollars for their ambulances, that's what they do. For their remounts or anything like that.
Okay, ambulance. Pretty quiet.
What are we repairing and maintaining for 40,000 since we bought a new ambulance?
Probably that building over there, I would say. I mean, I know that building takes a lot of maintenance. They have 4 ambulances, and I believe at least 2 or 3 vehicles.
Chase vehicles
Yeah,
or extra vehicles, so there's repair and maintenance on them.
yeah. And I know there's a lot of maintenance on that building too. That building's pretty old.
Raise it up. Thank you.
I believe on the next meeting, we're gonna have a proposal for strategic planning on the ambulance, and I guess no matter what happens, you know, this budget's pretty much gonna have to be what it is this year, so. Was there, John, was there a request to add a new person to this one too for billing?
Part-time.
Okay.
And I think that was because they're changing the billing back to
Yeah.
the county.
Yep.
And I believe, didn't we have a part-time position with that that lady at the state's attorney's office? So we probably don't even, that was a previous position
Lisa.
that went away.
She
And now
is,
it's coming
she's the
back.
one intended to be the part-time person at the ambulance service.
Got it, got it. Okay.
Next item, extension.
I find it interesting that they have a category called hospital under there.
That's just all all, you know, that account number is in there
Oh,
and it just runs on.
Well, I don't think we have many options on the extension service, do we?
no.
I don't, this is not a required service that the county has to have. From what I understand, was it in the 2010 or 11? This used to be, was it state-run program, from what I understand?
Isn't that
And-
the
and-
one that guy keeps coming down and talking
I
about?
think we've always had the extension.
Yeah, but wasn't,
They've had a person from Brookings, you know, an
Sure.
extra resident, but they don't have that anymore.
yeah, the state decided they couldn't afford it, and so they dumped it onto the county.
Well, I think they do a good job.
Yeah. Okay. Soil conservation.
The only thing I would add to that is Sarah, who's our employee over there, is leaving the end of November, first part of December. And we probably need to look for hiring someone for that position sooner than later, and so that Sarah has an opportunity to train her. So we may have to look at another part-time position there. If
She's
we-
full-time.
She's full-time now, but I think if we hire a full-time person, she would go to part-time for training.
Do we need $5,000 in professional services for these folks?
That's for the tree.
I'm sorry?
That's for the tree policy.
Really,
that we
the
have to pay
tree,
the state. We have to pay the state.
okay,
I think it has to do with that.
okay.
You know, this might be one of those departments that maybe we look at consolidating with something else. I know it's really important and they do good work, but with somebody leaving, it'd be an opportunity to maybe look at combining this with another department. I don't
I
believe
don't
there
know
are,
who did.
well,
I think the extension would be and they're
yeah.
too busy.
Well, from what I understand, and I could be wrong, we're one of the few counties that have a county person in the federal conservation office. And it probably makes sense. But if we're looking for efficiencies, because right now she does a lot, and she does a great job, but she's more or less their secretary, correct?
Yes.
And she does the tree program, which is all good. If
But
we're
if
looking
they-
for efficiencies, maybe we could,
If the extension is overworked or needs extra help, maybe then it's better to have a full-time person, an extra full-time person there and merge this together, then they're kind of part-time there and also helping out with extension. I
well,
don't
we
know,
got
you know.
4-H extension, which they work pretty closely, and then this other department, and maybe there's some way, just kind of like you're saying, I think they have their busy time with the trees, but when that's done, maybe they help out with 4-H or something, I don't know. Because I think, I look at wages, I look at retirement and all that, and this isn't a high-paid position, and we've had quite a bit of turnover on this, so just something I think we need to consider, and it's probably better to do that before we hire somebody new. I guess I'll just leave it at that, so.
Weed, I don't think there's gonna be any less of them.
Nope.
Zoning,
I do have a question on zoning, and that man happens to be here. We have $5,500 for supplies and actually used $687 so far this year. Were you planning on a big end of the quarter?
Is that because the
You're not on.
5,500 for supplies.
That's, yeah, because supplies and publishing,
Well, there's a category for publishing.
Publishing
so what is it at?
3,600 for publishing, and then supplies, 5,500, and so far you've used $687 this year.
Oh, yeah, we still have $1,000 in for a computer that's supposed to go in hopefully this fall. And then, but yeah, we've been trying to keep back. We've changed some things like the planning commission packets now we do digitally, so that's saved us a fair amount on paper. And so that's what's helping a lot. But that can change every year, you just never know.
2021, it was 3658. So
Yeah.
it wasn't that far off.
$2,000.
Well,
And just if you're curious, you probably noticed on travel, we haven't spent a lot this year either. But the reason behind that was we assumed we were paying for the RTEC training.
And so I sent bill for level 1, that was $1,850. And then I was supposed to go to level 2, but they canceled it. So otherwise, that would have been all used up.
Okay.
Any other questions on planning and zoning while Gary's up here?
Nope.
The flyovers, are they still planning on doing those, I guess?
Yeah,
I noticed,
that's equalization.
Deb, yeah,
Miss Lilly is here to talk about the diversion program.
great. We won't,
And how a $90,000 person is taking children to school.
I heard that. I was in a debrief, so I had a couple people in our office watching the budget because I assumed there would be questions. So if you just go back to our budget for a second, a couple of things. Professional services, that's for IT and other things that we need related to all of our computers.
Is that Carpel?
That's, part of that would be Carpel. It's also to pay for our IT group that comes over and helps us out. We went with Carpel. I know there was a question that came up about that. We went with Carpel because our server was going to have to be updated significantly. We now get huge files from the police department and the sheriff's office and DCI, and they're videos, and they take up just a large amount of a server. So when we switched to Carpel, that was basically because we need to be in the cloud. We can't continue to put Band-Aids on servers and then have the servers go down. So Carpel is well worth the money. We actually were ahead of the game. If you look at how many counties now in the state of South Dakota have Carpel, they're increasing every year, every month. Union County actually was way ahead of the game, and they are a fraction of our size. They were the ones that said, you need to switch to Carpel. So there is a yearly cost to that, as there is with any computer service. The other question was the diversion, $4,000. Every year, as you guys know, our successful diversions, we get a dollar amount from the state for those. In the past, up until last year, that money just went into the general fund, and we said, okay, we need to do something different with that. So that $4,000 is what we got back last year for our successful diversions.
So that wasn't, it's not really an expense.
It's not an expense.
It's a pass-through.
Correct. The same is probably going to happen with the opioid funds. Our office and Patty did a really good job of applying for those funds. We're going to get probably about $16,000. We will do a resolution and get that passed through to Lewis and Clark Behavioral Health, and they're going to operate a program for that. So that those opioid funds are going to have to probably go the same way. So we think between the 2 years that we're going to get those funds, that's going to be about $16,000 for Lewis and Clark, for them to provide opioid education. For diversion, we just submitted for this last year, and I'm hoping we're going to get about $7,000. That then should go into that diversion line to be used to help with the diversion program. So that was not in our budget. Like I said before, we did not budget for the diversion coordinator because you hadn't approved it. So there's nothing in our budget right now. That budget is for 2 full-time and 1 80%. And I will tell you, if you want to look at Clay County, they have more attorneys than we do. You all approved for a 4th attorney. We hired one because we were undertaking JDAI, and Brown County stole her away from us. We then didn't replace her. We kind of just, between the 3 of us, assumed the extra duties that she was handling to keep that program going. Yes, do I sometimes deal with these juveniles? Yes, I do. I absolutely agree with you that my time would probably be better spent elsewhere. I can tell you yesterday I spent 4 hours on juveniles. I'm trying to keep them out of detention, and so if I needed to babysit one of them, I did. I calculated that babysitting one little individual saved the county that day over $1,000. I bought him lunch at Jimmy John's and asked a former student of mine to come in and babysit for $40 to help me out when I couldn't sit with him. But, so $50 versus $1,000. So that's why we are asking to add that position. We're not asking for that fourth attorney. I think we could. I think our caseload justifies it. I know Sheriff Chrissy's asked for more personnel. Well, if you increase the number of deputies out there arresting people, guess who gets all those people? We do. And I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I would like to tell you that our caseload is going down. It's not. But for over 20 years, Yankton County has operated with 2 full-time attorneys and an 80% attorney for over 20 years.
Oh,
Yeah,
it used to be 2 part-times and 1 full-time.
okay, but so,
Back when I did it,
yes. So we have, I mean, when it was Eric, John, and Rob,
yeah.
2 full-time and an 80%. We didn't change that. Tyler and I are still full-time, Rob is still 80%. And I think we're doing a really good job. Tyler's handling the felonies, and DCI and everyone else in the AG's office think he's doing a great job. But we need help, and the diversion coordinator is the way to go.
And I think the question was why we should have a diversion coordinator in the state's attorney's office and not give that money instead to the Boys and Girls Club. What's your take on that?
My take on it is we need 2. I'm going to be honest with you. We need a diversion coordinator in our office.
And then somebody in the
And then somebody in the Boys and Girls Club. And how that gets funded, contributions from the county. I know there's been discussions about the city. I know there's been discussions about all of that. I really think there needs to be 2. Just because of the sheer number. Rob told me to try and come up with some numbers, not for today, but for the future. And I said, I don't know how you put a dollar amount on it. How do you put a dollar amount on doing diversion with a young individual and it's saving Walmart because they don't have to prosecute the shoplifter? And we don't have to, the police department doesn't need to respond, or the sheriff's office doesn't need to respond. I mean, that's our goal. Our goal is to keep those juveniles and those emerging young adults out of the court system. I can try to come up with a dollar amount, but
You can't.
you can't.
Deb, you can't because of the 1,000 members that they have.
Yep.
You change the lives of 800-900 of them
Right.
that never would be in diversion, but their lives are much better because they're redirected.
Right. And the parents and everything. I mean, it's just, if you look at where every state is going, they are pushing diversion at every level because it's such a burden on the court system. And yes, our public defenders are paid a X amount of dollars, but if they get to the point where they're so overloaded, because I don't divert those MICs anymore, because we all know Lewis and Clark Lake's very, very popular right now. So Game Fish and Parks and I are on, speed dial with each other. It's a lot less expensive for me to divert that case, have that young adult, 18, 19-year-old, take an online course for $60 and know you better not come to Yankton and drink out at the lake until you're 21, versus a court appearance, possibly a court-appointed attorney, another court appearance, and then a fine and suspended jail time. So I think, honestly, it's two. It's a full-time position in the state's attorney's office, and it's a position at the Boys and Girls Club. To let them continue doing what they've been doing, which works, and which the school district appreciates, and our downtown businesses appreciate. I mean, it's so wide-reaching when you look at how you can make some changes in those lives. But it takes support staff. And so I'm going to be honest, I think it's full-time in the state's attorney's office and contribute to the Boys and Girls Club to allow that position to continue as well.
Deb, do you know what that's gonna cost then? Because if that's something you need, it should be added to the budget for this year.
It's already in the budget,
No,
isn't
it's
it?
not.
It's not, and that's what Ryan and I were.
Yep.
the 40 to
And when
50.
we mentioned it, later on, we said it was really a credit to you that you're going out and getting these kids when you don't have to, and that we need to
Yep.
get some help because it's not.
And-
You have you have enough going on with your caseload. You shouldn't be going and getting these kids to school. And so
True.
that was.
But
the
I have to tell you, we were very successful, so I'm just going to say, we were
But
very.
could we get that number, and then that way we have an
Yep.
accurate budget
And-
for the state's attorney?
Yep, and,
Okay.
1,000 plus.
yep, Gary has done some research on where the other counties are that have it in-house, and it's $50,000 plus benefits.
So we're from 795 to, well, it's gonna be probably 865,000.
I did the
roughly.
rough calculation. It'd
Yeah.
be probably total, if a 50,000 salary, it'd be a $69,000 expense.
Yep,
So yeah, we're at about 865 roughly $1,000 instead of 795.
yep. And again, I mean, we did have allocated $50,000. We haven't used it again this year for that fourth attorney. We did that allocation
Okay.
when COVID hit.
But it's not in here?
And it's not in there. Mm-mm. So I think that's a realistic number, and then the question would be the support, the reason the Boys and Girls Club is saying 35,000 for next year is because they will get the grant through July. The grant's 70,000 for the year, so then
That's
for
the
them to
difference.
keep that position from July of 2024 till the December of 2024, they would need the 35,000. That would match up with the $70,000 grant. So I'm assuming that's where they got that number.
Deb, do you want to?
Your thing's not on.
If you guys agree to this for the August 6th, well, no, because I just redid the agenda again, so we'll have to approve it the next meeting.
If that's, yes,
The new position.
The
The new
16th.
position, yeah.
right. And if you want, if you want to put that on the agenda separately for that time period, like I said, I just didn't put it in the budget because we didn't have approval for it.
So does that mean you're coming to speak to it on that day?
On the 16th.
Yes.
We can put it on there. I don't know who's covering
You will be,
commission.
to speak to that.
Yes, I
August-
can.
August
And then you could
15th.
leave, because he could sit here.
True.
I do have a question on another thing.
August 15th.
Okay, yep.
Do you know how many mental illness hearings we had last year?
Oh, Tara would know.
Isn't it 50% of what it was 3 years ago?
I wouldn't say 50%. I know we're down just because HSC doesn't have the room. And, that's, again, those numbers are going to be dictated by how many patients HSC can take. I would say we were down the beginning of this year. We've crept back up again a little bit. I don't think we're down 50%, but we would be down.
Okay.
But that's, again,
I can't get a number, so.
right. I think Tara could give you that number. and I'll ask her to
Maybe she's
look it up.
listening.
She could be. She might be texting me right now. But that's the other thing, you know, we're obligated to do that as well. So as long as HSC is in Yankton County, we're it. So,
Is that a cost then to the county, or or is that something
Well,
that
it's
brings?
an income maker now.
Or
It-
is that
It's
something
an
that brings
income.
something?
it's
in?
income for the county, because we do the hearings
As
and
part,
as part of our job requirement. So
Where does that go then, to the
I think
general?
it goes into
general
the
fund.
general fund.
Goes into the mental illness
Yeah.
line item.
But, and then is that what we spend on for the mental illness
Well,
as
there's an expenditure
Okay.
amount, and then there's a revenue.
Do we have a revenue line for the mental illness? Mm-hmm. And that'll be in this?
All the counties, the out-of-county ones, they
Pay.
pay.
Okay. Are they good at paying us, or do we have to fight them
except
something else?
Ogallala, whatever.
There's a couple that have issues if they are members of a tribe. So,
What is that, Ogallala? That new county.
any other questions?
Deb, I want you to thank you for coming over and providing additional input.
I think it's very important. You know, I appreciate Dr. Stanage. I cannot tell you, without Lewis and Clark Behavioral Health, I don't know what we would do with some of these individuals. They do an awesome job. Boys and Girls Club does an awesome job. It's a team effort. But I think the community is not aware of it. I know there are members of the community that are, but keeping those kids out of trouble is extremely important. So,
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this additional budget hearing, to dig a little deeper in some of these areas, because people need to know and understand the consequences of not doing things.
And for me, I didn't realize that you went and picked up kids and took them to school. I didn't know that was a necessity. But now that we hear about it, I can
Yep.
absolutely see that it's very important.
now here's the good news, because I haven't given a shout out to Transit yet, because I haven't had my meeting with them. I am going to speak to them. In the past, Transit has had to work on you've had to call and make an appointment to get a ride, so to get kids to school. I spoke to them earlier this summer about my picking kids up and taking them on the same day because mom's car wouldn't start or they were snowed in. And so we're gonna try and work with the Transit and get a memorandum of understanding where if they are actually on diversion with our office, that they will actually do same-day transport. And then I won't be transporting, but, so again, thanks to Yankton Transit for being willing to do that.
Your heart's in the right area, because I know that you want those kids to succeed.
I like to see them walk across the stage with a diploma,
Certainly.
because then chances are I don't see them
Again.
again. Yes. So, all right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you.
See, Deb, do you want me to just change it and just add the 50,000?
Perfect.
And then I'll change the, because they'll be full-time, correct?
Yeah.
And then I'll change the Medicare and all that. then. And I'll give you a copy. Okay, we were to the highway now.
Sorry, they billed 32,174.65 so far this year, Wanda.
They've billed 32,000? How many actual hearings is the question?
That was the text I got. Down 28%, 405. Down 28% from 2021 to 2022.
And then we have to pay people for the mental health hearing too, don't we? Like to go to it?
No,
We don't? Because I see in the expenses that
Well,
we
we
pay.
pay Lucy.
Yeah, we pay Lucy and those people.
that's the board.
Okay, but we.
So we pay the board. We attend and represent the state at no cost to the county. And then the public defender represents any Yankton County resident that has a hearing, and so that's included as part of their contract. So we don't pay outside for Yankton County residents. That's all included.
And any attorney for any other county is paid by that county. Yep.
Okay. All right,
Thank you.
if, yeah.
What?
If the county pays.
Well, the only one I think that I've heard rumblings about is that new one that has the Native American name. It's Ogallala something. I can't remember the second part ever. So now we're on to,
So, well,
Highway.
one quick question then, so the plan is to, fund this and then fund the Boys and Girls Club as well at 30,000? Because we never really addressed that. Before we move on and kind of forget, because that's what she requested.
I'd like to hear from the other four, because I'm pretty
Well,
boys and girls proactive.
My thought is, if, this seems like it's more of a good thing for the entire community, but it seems like these things always fall on the county. And Deb mentioned maybe we work with the city or the school board, and if we all chipped in a little bit, it's for helping the citizens of the community and the kids. I would rather have something like that happen than it always
maybe
comes
one
on
of
the
us has
county.
to go to the school board and ask for some money from their funds. Because they seem to have a surplus all the
They
time.
get more property tax than we do.
Yep.
Would you be willing to do that, Don, as the rep for the Boys and Girls Club and our chair? I mean, I think you get a stronger coalition when you have multiple partners working together for the common good.
Go to the school, is that
Well-
your question?
Well, for the Boys and Girls Club, that 30,000, because that $30,000 grant is gonna go away. And then the next year, they're gonna want 70 or 80 or $90,000 from us alone, right? I mean, that's what's gonna happen, because the grant will be gone. And if it helps the kids and it helps the residents of Yankton, and it
Well-
helps Yankton County residents, if we all chipped in, I think it would be.
And it
better.
helps the school district because
You're exactly
federal
right.
government pays money for each child that's in school, which helps
Exactly.
the school district.
Yeah, and it cuts down, like Deb said, cuts down on crime and truancy and all of that, so.
Okay.
So
Yep.
is that a yes?
Yes, what? Will I go to the school? I'll talk to
board?
Dr. Kendall.
Sure.
And
Yep.
I'll talk back to the Boys and Girls Club.
John and I can bring it up at the next city-county meeting.
When's that gonna be?
Yeah, do we host the next one?
Yeah, we're gonna.
We should probably get that on the agenda and we'll bring that up.
Certainly.
Yeah,
Is that
we're
okay with you?
waiting for the new commission to get started. and things.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Highway Department. They don't spend any money, so it's an easy one.
Yep.
The Boys and Girls Club, this is,
I didn't have any questions.
no.
I know we have two people spending a lot of time working with them, and I know our highway superintendent is very cost conscious. So,
I don't know, should I bring that up now or wait till Tuesday night on the one road?
I'd say Tuesday,
Okay.
it's notified on it.
Yep.
I guess my only thought with this, and I think I've mentioned it to John and stuff before, if there's ways we can maybe, when we do contract with fuel, I don't know if we've ever reached out and tried to do that with DOT or, the city, or, just the more gallons of fuel that you're dealing with, the better deal you get. I know we do that as Yankton County, but if it's possible, I know the DOT yard is just right next to the highway shop. Maybe we bid it out together. Or, the state bid's probably gonna be a lot better than ours because the amount they do, and
Right.
maybe with the fuel, and then as far as even the department vehicles like, you know, like zoning and equalization, I believe now they just go get gas at the pump. You know, maybe we need to have them just get it at the highway shop or wherever we bid it at. You know, we're not talking tons of money, but if we could save $20,000-$30,000 a year, that's something, so.
And I've already talked to
Yeah.
Mike about.
Yeah, I know you've been
about
working
throwing
on it
that
already, so.
Out there too, so.
Okay. Emergency management. I had no questions on it. Anybody else?
Maybe the minor equipment, it doesn't look like they've spent a lot for a few years. But we're not gonna save a whole lot there either.
Well, I think Paul comes up with,
Yeah, he can
An
find a
immense
way to
amount of
spend it, I'm
stuff.
sure, so.
Well, and make the vehicles and everything that he's got last.
Yeah, he does a good job with that.
search and rescue. It's probably pretty much non-negotiable. Yankton County,
City.
City.
Yankton City,
Well, based on their,
airport.
based on the front page every other month where they have near record sales tax, I'm okay with 5,000.
For the airport?
I can agree with that.
Yeah,
good with
I
that.
mean, we're not getting any sales tax, but, I mean, I have to cut somewhere, so.
Everybody okay with 5,000?
Yep.
As usual,
Yep.
I'll be the bad guy.
Good luck going to the city, if we cut all these. Going to the city on the Boys and Girls Club if we cut all these. Anyway, next one, library.
I think the library does a lot of good things.
Say again?
I think the library does a lot of good things, even for those of us who live outside the city limits.
It's not a big deal, but I would, cut that 24 to 20.
Well, we're at 15, we've been at 15 for the last, I think, 4 years, so,
Mr. Heine's on the board.
yeah. And
Yeah,
they
I-
do a lot of good things.
They do a lot of good things, but, you know, again, we have limited amount of money ourselves, and so this could be a place where we could cut back, but I do think maybe increasing it from 15 is a good idea.
I could live with, I could live with 20.
Yeah.
All right, 20?
You know, why we're on this subject of these, you know, there's actually codified law that would allow us to do a small assessment to cover that. Say we're gonna just pay 20,000 a year to the library. You know, if we look at 10, STCL 10-12-9,
It's right behind you.
maybe that's something we could just do a small tax levy for 20,000, and then that's what our levy is. Because right now, we're just pulling all of this stuff out of the general fund. I don't think we're gonna not fund the library. It might be more prudent to just do it that way.
10-12-9?
Yeah, 10-12-9 for public library expenditures. You can also fund airport, but through a different one, but.
That's a lot of changes in the tax processing.
10-12-9, what subpart?
I'm not an attorney.
What?
I'm not an attorney, I don't know. It just says that here.
So you Googled it, is that what you're
No,
saying?
it's on it's in our book. Should be under public library.
Purposes for levy of county taxes. Memorial Day expenses, airports, animal damage control, weed control, ambulance service,
There we go.
daycare centers. I'm not seeing libraries, though.
Okay,
Sure.
if it can be done, we'll look it up and be ahead next year when we do this. Senior Citizen Center.
You know, I think the senior center does, or the center actually, does a really great job of taking care of those members of our community, and I think the budget request is reasonable, and
I have
We
a
pay for
blank
it.
page.
should be
There is blank
34,
pages in between each one.
$34,788, which is actually,
I don't know about
Little
you, but
bit
I
of-
like even numbers on certain things, and we can either go one way or the other, as far as I'm concerned.
well,
There
the
we
reason
go.
the reason it is that number is because we share expenses with the city, and it's just divided in half. So
Well, I think what he's saying is 34,800 or
That works for me.
34,700.
in 88, I don't know. I would just, I guess, give them what they ask, but
Okay,
John, could you live with 34,800?
I can live with 34,800, that's $2 extra. We
12
we always pay the
12
city
more.
share about everything else
yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
12 more, John.
$12 more, yeah.
Okay. Local emergency planning, we don't have any choice on that. I don't think.
No, now this is all the 911 dollars, right? So 911 fund.
Oh, my pages are in upside down.
And I think that completes the city of Yankton. Organizations.
The Yankton Homeless Center.
Public welfare. That's Jesse, right?
Yep.
Any requests the same?
I think he
And,
does good work.
I think he does an outstanding job.
Is, which one are we on?
412, public welfare, it's right under, yeah, organizations.
Is that the $10,000 one for the homeless
Yes.
shelter?
Yep.
I do hear, since
The beginning
this
of time.
expansion that they're doing, I hear you build it and they'll come, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, they had the letter in there that said that they wanted 20,000 though in 2024.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Well,
okay
he-
with 10.
When he came in and we discussed it, I told him, you know, there's, he hadn't yet applied for the tax reduction on his new properties, and I think he's, at least the impression I got is he was very gracious with whatever we could give him, and I think that's an important thing that these organizations remember is almost our sole source of revenue is property tax, and if they're not paying property tax, that also is in some ways a donation
donation,
from
On
the
yeah.
2
county.
properties.
Well, more than that now, because I believe they have their
think he
original
said they
one,
got
and at
4
least,
properties.
yeah,
Oh, they
they
have
might
4
have
now?
4.
I think that's what
And
I
so
heard.
he was gonna go look, and register with the equalization to try to.
I
get
can
that.
live with 10.
So we'll keep it at 10? I think so.
Who is making that?
Oh, oops, somebody's
He has to
buying
bring donuts next time.
some. Hey. Are we on mental health centers now?
Yes,
Is this for Lewis and Clark then?
yes.
Yes. Anybody add that up?
With the recognition that Lewis and Clark gets from the school administration, Boys and Girls Club, I think attorneys.
I think it says, if I added that correctly, 110,684.
112,124.
112,124?
Yep. And then Dakota Abilities, I see they haven't, they usually send it in. I'll have to call them, but we usually pay them the 1,440. Just like
So under
the
John's
Aspire.
theory, we should up it to 112200.
Say that again?
Under your theory, we should raise that to 112200.
I'm good with that.
That'll cost us more to have Patty go in and make
Well,
all
there-
the
It's
adjustments.
not the only change in the book, though.
Okay,
So we'll add the 1440 to that for the Dakota Abilities. Because they, I'm sure they just forgot like they used.
Aspire,
Yeah, it's the
That's
same.
part of the same
Yeah.
group.
okay.
So it'll be 113,564.
Historical sites,
You know, I think I'm fine with just leaving it as it is with the 18,000 and then the 2,000 for the Kramer Kenyon home. And it is the Yankton County Historical Society, and that is our history for our county.
I can live with that.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're to other funds.
Kramer Kenyon is behind.
Yep, it's all on the same budget sheet.
It's on the budget
Yeah,
with,
it's on the Historical
Mead?
Society, yeah. The Kramer Kenyon, they asked for an
Oh.
increase, and then we again mentioned that they got a tax exemption for the property, and then they didn't realize it, and then they were.
so that's
fined, so-
included in the 18.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
the 18 and
Yes,
the,
no, yes.
the 8.
2,000.
That's fine. I'm just making sure.
next item,
Are we in?
contingency,
It's fine, hope we don't have to use it.
Yep.
What constitutes contingencies?
That's any department that, will be short at the end of the year. This, if it's in the budget like this, we don't have to advertise for budget supplement.
Okay, gotcha.
next item, court,
And you wanted that,
Mr. Kettering's favorite.
you wanted that, it was I did lower it to 498, but you guys wanted it back to the 500. So I changed, the neglected back to 25. And then the supplies at 5,000, like it was last year. So that totaled up to 500.
sounds like we're getting a great deal. That's all public defender, right?
No, not all of it.
This is just,
Some of it is for jurors and witness fees for
gotcha.
grand jury.
Gotcha.
We thank God, the gentleman that, Mr. Harrison, that shot Jade Rembold pled guilty the other day, so we won't have a murder trial, so that's a bonus, which will be a huge savings, because you won't have to have the coroner, you won't have to have overtime for police officers, and you won't have to have juror fees, and
Data processing, Ryan?
is that a good number or not?
No? We can
Why
leave
the-
it, leave it as it is
Pressure's on.
right now, I think.
Say what?
I mean,
What was your
I think one of the big things, I think would really benefit is like if we went to enterprise solutions for Microsoft. That actually might save us some money overall when we've looked at all the licenses. And then we also now have Teams and a bunch of other nice software along with it, so.
Should be all right then.
Should be all right.
Good.
Well, if we were doing, say upgrades into this building, would that go into the building fund, or would that go into this fund? We're talking about doing some routers and maybe some network changes.
Probably out of this one.
That'd be out of this one, okay. It'll be good for now. I may have to change it, but
And, you know, we
I
can
got
change, yeah.
I got a bunch of estimates in here, so I can
Okay,
run through things.
all right, sounds good.
Yeah.
The next one, I hope we never have to use again.
So should we take it out?
Well, let's just leave it, not use it. Then we have a little bit of built-in cushion.
What's that?
Catastrophic legal expenses.
Yep. That's just, you never know.
Well, I'm worried about this predatory animal deal.
Not enough or too much?
No, that's from the state.
That's the
We have to
state,
have.
We have to.
We have to do it.
That's a 1939 law. I talked to Millette County and they didn't pay this one. But, you know, as far as, as far as the summer study goes, as a fee that the state should absorb so the counties don't have to, you would think of all the value that Yankton County brings to the state, that they could take that $3,000 and it wouldn't break them.
Well, we are supporting a NASCAR now.
Yeah. Yes, we
Pretty
are.
nice looking car too.
It's more than $3,000.
And it'll do well out at the bike rally.
Yeah, but it won't do very good at Bristol on Sunday.
No.
Next item, historical preservation.
I got care of
I got
poor.
care of the poor.
Did I miss it?
Oh no, what is am I wrong
here.
or,
411.
I got care of.
yeah, care of the poor. I think you're one too far down. 26.
I am thankful that
Oh, God, I skipped it.
Sheriff Chrissy had that article in the newspaper today, which said that that third person in the vehicle was a resident of Sioux City, Iowa, so that Yankton County does not have to pay for the costs of their care. Because that had to be expensive.
Highway Patrol should have sent us a check for all the cleanup we had to do for them too, so. Were we responsible for the coroner fees for that? Or would
I
the,
think they knew she was dead.
well, but does the coroner still have to come out for that, or? Is that on us, or is that on the county of residency?
That's downstairs.
I think it's included in her salary.
Oh,
The coroner?
Coroner has a salary, whether one person dies in the county or 50.
Okay, let's move on. Contact center,
Are we in care of the poor?
care of the poor.
Okay. And this includes contact center, correct?
No,
No,
contact center is next.
This is just for,
Year-to-date hospital,
That's
$190,000.
because you guys, settled with the.
Well, I know, but it's still painful to me.
that's a while back already, Wanda. You should be over the pain.
No, I know, I'm still looking at it though.
You can look at it this way, Wanda, a year to date, it's 195, and they're only requesting 94 for next year all year.
Yeah, but again, we're not settling it again.
Okay,
All right, contact center. I'm okay with 30.
yeah,
is this in addition to the space that we give them?
That we give them, yes.
Provide for them?
make available.
Catastrophic,
What's that?
Catastrophic poor
Poor
relief.
poor
Oh,
relief.
$2,000?
Well, we don't,
I know.
Yep.
WIC,
Well, that's all
Yep.
salary, but there's nothing we can really do about that.
mentally handicapped expenditures.
Where does this go? Does this go to,
Does it go to ABS?
I'm sorry?
no.
Where does this go, yeah?
These are, what's this, attorneys? Professional services.
For mentally
attorneys.
handicapped?
It's mental illness, whoever are attorneys that the Yankton serve for the Yankton County ones.
But that's part of their contract.
But
She
that's,
just
this
said.
is where we take it out of though. It's not under court. Like
Well,
professional
if it's where
services.
you take it out of, then it should be reduced substantially because we're 28% below.
I
and
did-
so-
I didn't
and so-
know, I didn't know, I mean, if you wanna change that, that's fine.
We,
Just let me know what you wanna change it to.
Well, the-
21, we spent,
72,000.
168,000. 22, we spent 90,000.
Where are you looking?
Oh, I see.
actual
okay.
expenses.
Actual total,
Okay.
miscellaneous
Seems
total.
very erratic.
So this is where, for the mental health hearings, that's where the funding,
This isn't for, hearings, this is for,
The qualified mental health professionals that we pay to Lewis and Clark?
let me check and see what the. This might be, okay, we got one for the board, that's the next one. That's Lucy and mental illness board. I'm pretty sure these are the attorneys for the individuals.
But the attorneys for the individuals are only paid by, so you're saying you pay all of the attorneys and then the other counties pay you back? Or is this just for the
This
Yankton
just for
County people?
Yankton County,
There's no way it's $90,000.
but we did have spent, in 2022, we spent 90.
Well, in 2022, we had COVID and people apparently couldn't take it. And wouldn't that be on the line below? For professional services? And not under the miscellaneous?
I was wondering what the difference is here, miscellaneous and professional services, what is,
That's how we'll pay.
what?
I
is
think
there
it's just a
something-
matter of putting it on the right line, but
Yeah. It's a good question.
if so far we've only used 17,000, I think I could live with 50. Because we only have 4 months left.
I'm okay with 50.
well, I think it depends on, when the bills come in, because I know some of those, they wait and then just dump all the bills at the, just a couple of years ago, we spent 168, so I'd like to know kind of what this is for first.
Okay, we'll come back to that when Patty comes back. The mental illness board,
I'm in favor of reducing that to 65.
65.
The mental illness board,
When, in 2020, it was 97, 2022, it was 76,000. And if we go over budget, then we gotta come in and subsidize this, so I'd rather.
Yeah,
I'd
but
rather
this
have-
is a guaranteed salary is what you're paying here. So I don't think this is going over budget.
Okay.
This is what you pay for the board.
Is
And
it-
I think
That's for if they're admitted to the hospital. There's McKinnon, there's Avera, mostly Avera.
So the one that's 90?
Is that
Should
for-
that be on the line below that, actually?
Is this for the mental health holds then?
Yeah,
Okay. Aren't those $500 per now?
They are now,
they are now,
Okay.
yep.
So, yeah, I can agree with you that that would be less.
because in 20, we paid a bunch out to catch up, and now we're done. Now we're just going along.
So you're saying 50 instead of 90 on the mentally handicapped?
Well, if we have, what did she say, 468 so far this year? Is that what she said?
500 times 500 is 25,000.
Well, there you go, then.
250,000.
Then 50 is more than enough. Am I right?
How many cases, what did you say?
I believe she said 468.
468 times $500 apiece. Well, that's 234,000, which I don't think it'll be that much.
Times 468. Yeah, I don't think that can't be that. So do you want to leave it at 90 and then we'll have cushion?
Well, the 3-year average is 108,000.
What?
The 3-year average of 2020 to 2022 is 108,000. So
And-
that,
And any unused funds revert back to the general fund at the end of the year.
That's fine.
So this way we'll have a little
let's leave it at
cushion.
90. I think.
The mental illness, the 441, 00010 is for the hospitals. And the 441, all zeros, that's for, we pay Redfield, all those other mental, health centers that Yankton County residents,
So that's
All
for
right.
like Plankington for slow folks.
not plank, we don't pay.
Well,
But-
whoever. I
yeah.
mean,
Redfield.
So I'm wondering, do you want to change,
no,
no, I mean,
that's not mental health folks.
I will put, cause it looks like that 90,000 is just in one area, if I just put half and half, or,
Sure.
Sure.
I'm fine with that.
half, it'll still come up to the 90,000,
Yeah.
but, yeah. Okay,
The next one, mental illness board.
and this is Lucy and all the board members.
I say 65.
Let's go to economic development.
All right then.
We'll come back,
Is that Thrive?
thrive.
Isn't that what we have, what's the word I
Well, we're
pledged,
still
pledged to them?
We're still paying off on the pledge that we reneged on.
And
What was that?
Well,
pledge
I
is
don't think
90,000.
we reneged on it.
That pledge, there's $90,000 left on that pledge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We didn't make the payment. That's, to me, that's
but it's not a
reneging.
renege. I don't have a problem giving them the 50. Because they're trying to build houses and trying to bring people here. I get it.
What did you put for the mental illness board?
We're waiting for you to come back.
Oh, thank you.
And what was your, you went to look at something?
No, I went to get my pencil.
No, sorry.
Then we'll leave it at 90.
Well, you suggested 65.
Yep, I suggested 65. Because the number of hearings has gone down markedly. They're Tuesday mornings and Friday mornings. I used to do them both on behalf of the state and on behalf of the alleged mentally ill person. And I know they don't have the numbers that they used to have.
65 it is. Let's go to that. It'd be just on on
And
the
Thrive's at
report a
50.
year from now, it'll just show over or under.
Oh, stop.
Well, that's what it'll do.
No, it won't.
Are we on economic development then?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did that and moved on.
I
Dan.
guess I don't mind giving money to economic development, but I'd like it to be able to be tied to something where maybe we task them with some assistance and
This
some
is the
projects.
pledge
This
that
is-
we made,
yeah.
or
So we-
people
I-
before us
You didn't
made.
make it, you didn't make it, you didn't make it, I didn't make it.
I know.
It's
But
a pledge
what-
that was made.
But, yes, but are we just, when we give them this 50,000, what is happening with it? Because I have people come up to ask me, where did the $50,000 go?
Well, my understanding, and I'm not
Mm-hmm. Sure.
on the board of Thrive anymore, but they're building that, working with the city to do the infrastructure on the housing development that goes on the Crooked Road if you go to Tyndall.
But how does
And
that help Yankton County?
that brings houses, which brings property tax, which
But-
brings people.
But they're all TIFed, so we will get some tax off of it 20 years from now. All I'm saying is, I'm fine with, if we're agreeing to give the 50,000, that's fine, but I'd like to, tie it to something, we're specifying that this is for workforce housing, then I'm fine and we can move on. I just don't like, here's $50,000, we don't know what it's gonna be spent on, but we pledge to do it. If it's for workforce housing, I'm fine with that.
It would be worth that not to have to watch another PowerPoint.
Another what?
So if it's,
PowerPoint.
if we're putting a star by this 50,000 is for workforce housing in Yankton County, I'm good, let's move on.
I don't think they can do that, Dan.
It's a pledge.
I agree, it's a
They'd have to
pledge.
track the money,
Yeah,
but their emphasis right now is on workforce housing and
Okay.
bringing Manitou in and,
okay,
you know, they put money into the.
sure.
What they do for the job.
But, I mean, the point I'm saying, and I get it, economic development's tough, but everything that comes in is on a TIF or a TID, and what that does, our sole source of revenue, more or less, is property tax, and these organizations come in and they don't pay property tax for 20 years, that hurts us. And so maybe we don't have to tie it to workforce housing, but we could say, our hope then is that this is work toward workforce housing. I would rather that than just a blank check that we don't know where it goes, because, like I said, I've had people come up and ask me, where does the $50,000 go? What do we tell them? Well, it's for a pledge that was made 8
Made
years
prior
ago.
to us,
Made prior to us.
and we're honoring it. Because
And
we're
the next
not-
time they come for a pledge, you can make that tie, you can ask for that tie then,
Well,
I think.
but we're writing this $50,000 check and we have no idea where
Somebody-
the tax dollars are going. And if the answer is yes, that's fine, but I would like it tied to something somehow.
Somebody made the pledge, not any of us, tied it to us. I think we're stuck, in much the same fashion the state tells us to do things. I think
I don't-
we just finish out, and then when our pledge is up, then they can come in and tie it to
Yeah,
something.
and I'm not against it, but I'm gonna believe it's for workforce housing then.
Good. That's part of it.
Yeah.
Operating transfer out, that's the cash dollars we have to, give to emergency management and the highway, to balance our budget.
To balance their budgets.
And it is down from last year.
So what
Not
can we
much,
do
but it's
about
down.
this? Nothing?
Nothing.
Let's just move on then.
Okay. Jail building?
And the state auditors like to have some amount there, because we did spend money out of, then we'd have to supplement the budget, cause there's nothing in there, so we'd just,
For that one or
Started
the
with
jail
jail.
building?
jail building,
Okay.
That's update.
yep.
Yep.
And this is for River City domestic abuse.
This is a state requirement too.
Are you saying you're in favor of domestic abuse, Dana?
No, I'm saying this is required by state law that we do this. And I believe, don't the marriage and, marriage licenses go toward this? Is that correct,
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Yep.
County buildings,
And you upped that to 100,000, I think?
Yeah.
Last time.
I'm fine
Did you?
with that. Yes.
And historical, that's just the levy. You know, they get more money when the value goes, when value is increased, so there's nothing we can do about that. The
What debt do
debt
we have?
payment. Nothing we're gonna do about that.
the 402 debt service, that is also, that is always just what the, our yearly, payment is.
Napa Junction?
And that's just the money we receive for them, so they get all of it.
When is this debt service is for the jail, correct? When is that scheduled to be paid off then? Is that 2025?
25.
2025. Got it, thank you.
For the revenue, I vote that we increase it.
Well, that's pretty low interest rate, is it not?
I think it's a partial payment in 25, ain't it?
The,
The jail debt reduction?
yeah, that's done in 25, yeah. Our last payment is.
It was like 600 and something before, I think.
Yeah. And the revenue, there's really, I believe that you can't change any of this, cause it's all estimation.
Yeah.
And I just went by what we received through the year and through the other years, and
Have we ever, were we gonna discuss, or I thought we maybe discussed about increasing the renewal for liquor? Did we discuss that, I thought?
We talked about it, but I don't know that we really discussed where we wanted to do it to.
One of the things that I would like to see examined this year is your camper deal
Yes.
that,
Get through this project, we'll get on top of that.
that would be just, okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for your time.
yeah, I will go ahead and change these, what we've decided. And I will send you, Monday, I will send you, the provisional. Do you want me to send it to your, Yankton County email, or,
Send
Your-
it, send it to my office phone,
okay,
because then I know somebody will print it out.
okay. Do you want it to your private or to your Yankton
To my
County?
Yankton,
You
to my
will-
Yankton County.
okay.
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Dan, I just have your Yankton County. And then another thing on that soil,
Are you gonna send out just the change pages, or you're gonna send out the whole
I'll send out
entire thing?
the whole, provisional budget
Okay,
report,
that's only 5 pages or so, or 7 or something.
yeah.
Okay,
That, soil position, cause we'll have to advertise, you know. And if you are going to approve a budget for them for a full-time, or whatever you guys decide.
For, are we talking for the soil conservation? I think it would be worth just exploring, trying to, doing some consolidation.
I'm sorry, what are you exploring?
Explore, well, the soil conservation job is
Oh.
gonna become vacant.
Combination.
And if we can, work together, I mean, we have a bunch of those offices, at the secretary for the nurse's office and, 4-H and extension, and if there's a way we can make it work, and maybe we can't, but if we look at it and consolidate, that's saving money, and if it doesn't work, then we're in the same boat that we were.
I think the only consolidation that makes any sense is extension and conservation.
And I would agree,
To
because
make
it's
a
pretty similar.
Slightly larger extension office,
Yeah.
that then part-time handles soil conservation as well.
The only thing is, and I'm with that too, because there's plenty of room at the conservation building. The only thing is how closely does the conservation gal work with the state conservation board also? That'd be my
Yeah,
only
I
question.
think she's with the federal one
federal.
right now, yeah.
Right. So, that would be my only question, is how closely she works
Yeah.
with them. I don't know if it's even necessary that
Is
she
there
sits
even,
out there, I don't know.
is there even a state I don't even know if there is a state organization for that. I think that's more at the county level and then goes right up to federal, so.
Well, John, how
I'll
do you
check
feel,
with her.
how do you feel like the extension?
I move to adjourn.
No, I'm not ready yet.
How do you feel like the extension is in terms of workload and managing things right now? I mean, like, they've lost their state support sort of, and
I think they get their plate full, but like you mentioned, if there's a way to consolidate those two positions, the only time there's that, other than, and I don't know 100% what Sarah all does, other than the tree deal, the tree sales. I know she helps Dan nail off with some contracts for conservation, dam paperwork, building dams and shelter belts and stuff like that, but
I'd like to see them be more aggressive in letting the general population know what their programs are.
I agree, and that's where,
Dan,
I'll try to get a feel on that within the
Okay.
next couple of weeks.
Okay.
it's SDCL 10-12-9, subpart 19.
We have public comment yet or no?
yeah. Final public-
Okay,
final public
what I
comment.
would still like to know, and maybe it's just because of my past training, to get an actual feeling about what this budget projects going forward, as to whether it's balanced or we're taking in more income than we are expenses. We need to take the general fund on start date, what it was then, and subtract previous accounts payable from that, and add accounts receivable, then you got a beginning balance. And at the end, on the end of your projection, you take your expenses away from that and add in your revenue, and then you see what your general fund is. And that's how, in my mind, we'll know whether we did a balanced budget if we aren't deficit spending.
If you do that, then you also have, if you want it that way, then you'll have to include, because if you do it this way, it's not gonna come out the same. Revenues are gonna be different, expenditures are gonna be different. Because throughout the year, if someone's budget is in the red, then we do that.
Transfer.
that transfer.
And where does the transfer come from?
From the general
To
fund.
the general fund. So,
And you
so
have
it
it
ends up in the end, it's out.
But if you just want a total revenues and expenditures, it's not gonna come out because you have to put all the transfers and supplements in there to get, and then it'll come to a balanced budget. But if you go like expenditures, and that's not gonna be.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I think the big sign is, are we using that contingency fund?
Yes, and we are.
Yeah.
We don't know whether we are.
We're
Not-
So,
We don't have
I
a
don't
clue
think
whether
we
we
spend
are.
all of it for, every year,
Mm-hmm.
but you know,
The
Yeah.
only reason the general fund is where it's at right now is because of COVID funds. That's the only reason. There are no more COVID funds coming up in the near future.
Kind of, what concerns me about, and you're just saying that, is everything has increased. All of our budgets have increased, but our revenue has gone up maybe 3%, and we're spending a lot more than that. So
Look at our-
next year's budget.
Look at our salary
well,
increases that we put in.
6%, 4%, yeah.
Yeah,
Taxes haven't gone up.
No,
Property
3%.
values have a little bit, so we get a little more income, but
Well-
we don't know whether we're deficit spending or not. And that bothers me.
for this year with the CPI and growth,
Why Patty's looking at that,
taxes went up, not sure.
while Patty's looking at that, I wanna bring up one more time the James River bridges. I think we need to do some sort of contingency fund there as well. I mean, we in good faith applied for that grant, and, you know, we may get it, we may not. But if we don't get, or if we do get it and we're not ready, we're gonna have to scramble. And that's $2 million. And so, I don't know what we do. Maybe when we do the highway plan, we say, this is our plan if we don't get this fund, but if we do get that, we're gonna have to move that over, because that's the only fund that has enough money to move something around. I don't know, guys, I just don't wanna be in a position where we're scrambling.
You know why the federal government is in $33 trillion in debt? Because there's nobody up there that sits and decides how is this gonna be paid for.
You're right.
And that's what I say, we gotta know how we're gonna pay the bills.
You're right.
I entertain a motion,
Pat-
public
Patty-
comment.
Patty, did you have something you wanted to?
Well,
Public comment, come on up. Patty. We'll do it right after public comment, sorry.
Couple minutes. Dan Schenkel. I agree with Dan on the contingency fund for the bridge. I think the roads and the bridges are the most important thing we got, other than our safety, I guess. Seems like we got a list of items here on the Public Works 390 line item that says other public works. I don't know why we got railroad on that list. That's line 332. But anyway,
we don't have a railroad.
it's on this page.
which page is this
Don't worry
page?
about it.
I know. So let's put 2.5 million or 3 million by it. Make it bridges. I'm telling you, put a contingency fund for that 2 million or $3 million on this thing, and you got it when it comes time to do it.
Where are you gonna get the money?
You got CDs in the
What?
bank.
No.
So you're gonna use the general fund, you're gonna spend it.
Don, we're
I-
not supposed to talk.
Oh,
I got in
Right.
trouble for
You're right,
that.
you're right. Sorry. I'm sorry.
I know Yankton County's got money in the bank, so that should not, I understand you're talking about the general fund, you take it out of the CDs and you put it in the general fund. We don't need to say that we don't have the money. So, I don't know, I guess I am like Dan, you got the Clemish here, you got the money probably gonna show up, you don't know if it does or not, but then if you don't do something about it, you got $400,000 on a contingency fund and you're worried about spending it, I'm sure you are spending it. So why don't we do the same thing with the bridge and just be ready for it? That's all I got.
Thank you. I'd now entertain a motion to
I'd move to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn, second?
Second.
Patty's got.
Oh, Patty.
got
That's
some.
all right. I'll explain it on Tuesday.
Okay.
So, Wanda and Ryan?
Yep.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same, motion carries.
Yep.
Thanks for reminding me, Wanda.
Well, I know, I